Chapter 142. In the end, the tall man in a suit obeyed Song Qingshu's instructions and got out of the car. However, he now had a hammer in his hand. At the same time, he held a functional armor-penetrating talisman in his other hand. Although he didn't know why a cultivation bigwig at Great Death Courting Senior's level would come to the hospital on a small tricycle, he felt that given his IQ, he couldn't understand Great Death Courting Senior's train of thought at all. Whether it was in terms of realm or way of thinking, they weren't on the same level. Three pure ones of heaven and earth, Tao is impermanent. The man in a suit walked up to the small tricycle that looked a little shabby, raised his sword fingers, and shouted softly before he quickly stuck the armor-penetrating talisman on the hammer. Ding! In an instant, the talisman's full power surged out, and the hammer instantly grew in size and was covered in a layer of dark gold. This was originally just an ordinary hammer, but after being enchanted and strengthened by the armor-penetrating talisman, it could display the power of a spirit weapon. The man in a suit held the hammer and sneered with satisfaction. With this hammer, this shabby little tricycle would probably be smashed to pieces. However, just as he was about to further destroy the tricycle, he unexpectedly heard a girl's voice in his ear. "What do you want to do to me?" Very quickly, a wave of horror surged into his heart. Because he realized that the voice seemed to be coming from the tricycle. What the hell? This shabby tricycle could actually talk. The man in a suit broke out in a cold sweat as he stared blankly at the small gray and black tricycle. The paint had already peeled off, and on a closer look, there was still rust on the handlebars. It looked completely unremarkable, but the man in a suit felt that he had made a mistake. He should have guessed earlier that a vehicle operated by Great Death Courting Senior definitely wouldn't be an ordinary one. "I advise you, don't have any delusions about me." At that moment, the girl's cute voice coming from the tricycle once again roused the man in a suit from his thoughts. This voice, didn't it sound too soft and cute? It was like the voice of a little Lolita. The man in a suit really couldn't imagine that this voice could match up with this shabby little tricycle. The point was that because it was so sweet and pleasant, it didn't seem lethal at all. Perhaps this was purely an invisible navigation system that Great Death Courting Senior had created? Was it used to scare people? The man in the suit was guessing. At the same time, he fell into a deep dilemma. Should he smash it or not? After a period of careful consideration, the man in the suit narrowed his eyes and finally decided to raise the hammer. As a man, he had to be more decisive. Everything would be clear once the hammer smashed down. Bang! The reinforced hammer smashed into the front of the tricycle, producing a powerful muffled sound, but it only produced a string of sparks. The man in the suit was shocked to find that there was an invisible barrier around the tricycle. Instead, a counterforce sent him flying, and he crashed heavily into a black sedan behind him. The huge impact caused the car's anti-theft function to activate, and a long alarm sounded. Damn it, the man in the suit shook his dizzy head and got up after a while. This sudden backlash made his hand go numb, and he lost the opportunity to destroy the tricycle. "I'm so cute, but you're still willing to lay your hands on me. You don't have a girlfriend, do you?" The little tricycle's girlish voice came again. This time, the man in the suit shivered violently. What kind of monster was this? The alarm from the sedan behind him attracted the security guards who were patrolling the nearby area. The man in the suit climbed up with great effort and hurriedly got into his car. He endured the sharp pain in his head, stepped on the accelerator, and drove away from the scene at top speed. Now, the man in the suit couldn't care less. He didn't even have time to think about what the hell that tricycle was. He only felt that his head was hurting. He suspected that he had a concussion from the rebound just now. What a joke. He was a golden core stage cultivator. Getting a concussion from the rebound of a broken tricycle. No one would believe this, right? He stepped on the accelerator and directly drove to the hospital entrance. He didn't even pay the parking fee. With a bang, he directly broke through the guardrail and rushed out. The security captain was frightened by this sudden scene. He was so angry that he slammed the table and jumped up. It was said that the richer one was, the more stingy they were. This was indeed true. This bastard was driving a Maybach, but he didn't even pay the parking fee. However, what made the security captain even more frightened was that just as he watched the Maybach speeding out of the hospital area, behind the Maybach, a tricycle quickly followed at the speed of a meteor. It was King driverless. On Bao Hua Road in front of the second hospital, the man in the suit quickly drove to the highway. After a few minutes of calming down, he felt that his headache had eased a lot. However, it was obvious that the man in the suit didn't realize the seriousness of the problem. He cast a sidelong glance at the rearview mirror. The man in the suit's face instantly became extremely pale. CK. That tricycle actually caught up by itself. Was this car made in Cybertron? Vroom. The sound of the motor roared, and the man in the suit began to accelerate. However, the tricycle behind him was still hot on his heels. Just like that, a Maybach and a tricycle performed a fast and furious performance on the highway. The man in the suit found that whenever he accelerated, the tricycle would also accelerate. His Maybach speed was close to saturation, a full 300 kilometers per hour. The scariest thing was that the speed of the tricycle was obviously not limited to this, and the distance between them was getting closer and closer. Not far away, a police car was parked. A traffic police captain leaned comfortably against the side of the police car and took out the newly issued speed detector from his pocket. Whoosh! Whoosh! Two sounds, and two streaks of light almost instantly flew past him. Boom! The traffic police captain was shocked to find that the speed detector in his hand had actually exploded. CK. Racing so early in the morning? Do you want to die? The traffic police captain roared angrily at the two streaks of light, and quickly took out his walkie-talkie. Attention all units. There are two cars racing on the Huan Highway. They have exceeded the maximum speed limit. Please stop them in time. Soon, a reply came from the other end of the walkie-talkie. Reporting, Captain. These two people are too fast, we can't stop them. Did you see the car type clearly? Inform the municipal bureau to get the surveillance cameras to check the license plate. The first is a Maybach, the other. At this point, several traffic police officers on the other end of the walkie-talkie exclaimed, CK. Captain, it's a tricycle. A tricycle is chasing the Maybach. Reporting, Captain. The tricycle has overtaken the car. Chapter 143. After learning about the situation at Second Hospital, they went downstairs accompanied by Director Lee. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal frowned deeply. It seemed that he hadn't relaxed since entering the hospital building. Director Lee, I'll have to trouble you to take good care of these three children. I, Lei Murin, will definitely get to the bottom of this matter. Senior Immortal, don't worry. Even if you don't say so, I'll do my best. This bunch of profiteers who make these three unmarketable products are really hateful. Director Lee nodded. He knew that it wouldn't be easy to investigate this matter. Because the other party had a lot of means to make money, they had immediately gone through private procedures to give each family a sum of money that they couldn't refuse as compensation. But whether it was Director Lee or Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal, both felt that this compensation wasn't a reason to prevent the truth from being revealed. Students who were still in the foundation establishment stage, these were the future hopes of the country, but now they were being used as lab rats for human experiments. Although on the surface it seemed that there were only 3 students who had problems, there was still a lot of darkness behind the scenes. It was really frightening to think about it. When they reached the entrance of the hospital, Director Lee stood at the door and bowed. But please be careful, Senior. The force behind this group is very powerful. My Shifu knows that you've been investigating this independently, and is actually very worried. If you need help, you can say so in the group. If everyone works together, there won't be any problems. Brother to said this? Asked Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal. Yes. These are my Shifu's exact words. Replied Director Lee, tell Brother to rest assured. If I really can't solve this problem, I'll definitely ask for help. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal smiled. Actually, I'm very thick-skinned. Good luck, Senior. Director Lee nodded, then bowed at the door. I still have some matters to attend to in the building, so I won't be seeing you out. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal nodded. Go ahead, Director Lee. If there's any progress on the drug test, contact me at any time. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal sighed the whole time as he left the hospital. After this investigation, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal felt that perhaps these children hadn't intended to drink the potion, and had most likely been duped. Nowadays, it was too easy for those black-hearted educational institutions that devoured human flesh and blood to sell their so-called brain-nourishing products during the tutoring process. The unfortunate and pitiful ones were ultimately these ignorant and young children. Initially, Wang Ling had wanted to hand this matter over to the forum owner in front of him to handle, but it was very obvious that this forum owner was already badly battered by the mess that had followed. Ever since he had met Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal, Wang Ling had never seen a man look so dejected. Immortal Castle was too mysterious and liked stirring up trouble too much. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal couldn't rely on his chivalrous spirit to solve problems like he usually did. Wang Ling felt that Immortal Castle's problem was already pressing. And the most important factor was that this organization had already affected his comfortable life, both openly and secretly. When he left the hospital building and returned to the parking lot, he noticed signs of a fight. After the talisman was used, it would leave behind a special smell that other people couldn't smell, but Wang Ling's sense of smell was very sensitive. His pupils opened, and the scene in front of him began to flow backward. The Heavenly Eye had a flashback ability that allowed him to see what had happened half an hour ago. However, it was only limited to what had happened half an hour ago. Wang Ling transmitted the scene into Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's mind, and the man was taken aback. What the hell? Brother Ling, your little tricycle can talk. That didn't seem to be the point. The point was, who was this man in a suit driving the Maybach? Why the hell did he smash the tricycle with a hammer? In the end, it had even bounced off. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal carefully observed the flashback image transmitted by Wang Ling, and the expression on his face began to change. Finally, his eyes instantly widened as he remembered. He had seen this man in a suit before. This was the person from Immortal Castle. The supervisor's subordinate. We're being watched? Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal clenched his fists angrily. This bunch of idiots were really all pervasive, huh? Were they eels? Not far away, the security captain saw the two of them arrive, and hurriedly walked over and pointed to the little tricycle. Gentlemen, this is your tricycle, right? While you were gone just now, this tricycle actually chased after a Maybach. I don't know what happened, but it came back on its own just now. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal, after hearing the security captain's words, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal felt that he was still too naive. He had thought that this little tricycle was just an ordinary means of transportation. Brother Ling hadn't enlightened this thing, had it? Congratulations, you're right. The security captain said helplessly, even if you're Director Lee's friends, this tricycle and the absconding Maybach did indeed affect the other cars in our parking lot. Gentlemen, how should we deal with this? At that moment, a burly man in sunglasses leaned over. Wang Ling and Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had already seen the Heavenly Eye flashback image, and immediately knew that this was the owner of the car that the man in a suit had crashed into after being sent flying. Were you two the ones who damaged my car? Asked the man in sunglasses. You can't say that, it was that Maybach guy who damaged your car, how can you blame us? Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal glanced at the black supercar the man was driving. It was a limited edition Bugatti. The headlights had been smashed by that F*King idiot from Immortal Castle. Repairing these two headlights would cost at least 100,000 yuan. How many crispy noodle snack packets could he buy with that? Wang Ling felt that Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal was actually very similar to him in one way. They were both very thrifty. When they walked the streets, they would never spend money that they shouldn't. I don't care, that Maybach guy has already escaped, and I can't catch up to him. But you're also indirectly responsible. The man with the sunglasses crossed his arms and his biceps bulged out, causing the white shirt he was wearing to stretch out. Actually, I'm not the owner, I'm just the driver. Do you know who the owner of this car is? If I say it, you'll be scared to death. Oh. Scared to death? Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal thought it was funny. Do you know Secretary Son of the Alliance of 10,000 Schools? One of the 10 meritorious figures who founded the nation back then. The man in sunglasses sneered slightly. My master is a legend at number 60 high school, and has already reached the golden core stage at such a young age. Hearing this, Wang Ling already had a bad feeling. He's the person who recently relied on his keen insight to prevent 2 assassination attempts by Shadow Stream. Now he's Secretary Sun's favorite, the youngest director of the general administration of 100 schools in history, Audiobook. Let me ask you, are you afraid? Chapter 144. Audiobook hadn't expected to run into Wang Ling here at all. After receiving a call from his subordinate, he had immediately come down. Mr. Zhua, these 2 people broke your car and refused to pay for it no matter what. Don't you think it's too much? Do you want me to call a lawyer? The man in sunglasses wanted to ask if he should call a lawyer, but before he could say anything, he noticed that Audiobook's gaze was already fiercely on him. There was something wrong with the plot. The sunglasses man broke out in cold sweat. Do you know who this is? Audiobook pointed at Wang Ling. He's my shifu. So what if he was hit by his master? That was just master's caress. Sunglasses man, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal, Wang Ling, his face full of excitement, Audiobook stepped forward and grasped Wang Ling's hand. Shifu, your disciple has been looking forward to meeting you day and night, and I finally get to see you. Wang Ling knew that he had been completely blackmailed by Audiobook. There were a lot of old ladies who blackmailed each other these days, and blackmailing a shifu was indeed quite fresh and refined. Not long ago, Wang Ling had heard a short story about a little girl who had run into an old lady who had fallen on her way to school. The little girl had kindly helped the old lady up, but the old lady had insisted that the little girl pay money. At that moment, the little girl had calmly stood up and slapped the old lady, saying, "I'm underage anyway." Then, he left. At that moment, Wang Ling actually really wanted to imitate what the little girl was doing. Yup, he's only 16 years old. In theory, he's still a minor. But after this slap, he felt that this guy would definitely die on the spot, right? I've long heard of Mr. Zhua's great name, but I didn't expect you to actually be Brother Ling's disciple. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal cupped his fists in a salute in an attempt to diffuse the awkwardness. This senior is, I am Lei Muran, Taoist name Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal cupped his fists in salute. So senior is Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal. Audiobook was instantly excited. It turned out that the great death-courting senior that everyone in the cultivation world was talking about was him. If it wasn't for the current occasion, Audiobook felt that he would definitely kneel down and worship this big shot. I've long heard of your great name. I didn't expect to meet you here today. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal rubbed his head a little embarrassedly. Am I that famous? Where did Mr. Zhua hear this news? Audiobook thought for a bit and immediately replied, Cultivation Story Club, bosom friend for 500 years. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal, why is Mr. Zhua here? Speaking up to this point, Audiobook looked around cautiously, then pointed at Hospital Block No. 2 next to the night duty hospital, and said in a very low voice, I'm here today to visit an old leader on behalf of our general administration of 100 schools. This is old Chief Chen of the former Cultivation Police Department. Then, he pointed at his head and shook his head. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal, is there something wrong with his head? Audiobook and the man in sunglasses, Audiobook. It's dementia. Wang Ling raised his eyelids slightly. Not long ago, the old man's dementia had gotten better with great difficulty. He didn't expect to meet one today. As it turned out, mental disorders were a tricky problem for both cultivators and ordinary people. As it turned out, this thing really couldn't be cured with medicine. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal looked at Hospital Block No. 2 and frowned deeply. I've dealt with this old Chief Chen before. 2 years ago, in order to safeguard the welfare of the working people at the bottom of Wind Factory, he rushed into the factory alone and overturned more than 10 excavators. Wang Ling, I've always felt that old Chief Chen's temperament is actually quite similar to mine. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal said, I'll go ask Brother Toya later and see if he has any special treatment methods. Hearing this, Ajwa immediately bowed. On behalf of old Chief Chen, I thank Senior Immortal for your help. It's no big deal, it's just a small problem. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal smiled slightly. Today, Ajwa felt that his luck was really off the charts. He was actually able to meet two seniors whom he had admired for a long time at the same time. However, Ajwa also realized that when these two people were really standing in front of him, he didn't even have the courage to ask for their WeChat. He had just met them, but they were already clamoring to add each other's WeChat. What if the seniors thought this was a form of disrespect and left a bad impression? What if the seniors rejected him? How embarrassing would that be? What if the seniors didn't use WeChat? Wouldn't that be too rash? What if? Ajwa struggled for a long time in his heart. At that moment, police sirens screeched outside the hospital, and 4 police cars drove into the parking lot one after another, instantly surrounding Wang Ling and the others. The security captain knew Ajwa's identity, so he took advantage of a gap to explain the current situation to Ajwa. It was still about the small tricycle chasing after the Maybach. The security captain had heard that the tricycle had overtaken the Maybach on the highway, which was a serious violation of the speed limit. Then the traffic police had checked the route on surveillance cameras and chased them here. It looks like they're here to make trouble for us, Brother Ling. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's eyes were as calm as still water. It was just a few police officers, and they couldn't scare him at all. Although he wasn't afraid, the situation was indeed very troublesome. In a law-based cultivation society, realm didn't mean everything. Even if a soul formation cultivator broke traffic rules and the law, whether it was an immortal sword or a car, they still had to be detained. Those who had to go to jail still had to go to jail. Grenade throwing was very famous in the online cultivation circle, but the police wouldn't buy it. Wang Ling was also very vexed. The small tricycle, Sheep, had always had the temperament of a child, and her temper was a little unstable. Sometimes, when she was naughty, she couldn't be controlled at all. Looking at this group of traffic police whizzing over, Wang Ling was instantly a little vexed. Next to him, Ajwa's eyes lit up. He knew that this was his chance to shine. Are Shifu and Senior worried about this? Ajwa asked. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal, can you handle it? Ajwa gave him a thumbs up. It's just a bunch of police uncles. It's just a small problem. Senior, watch me. As soon as he said this, the traffic police captain who had been on the highway earlier had already gotten out of the police car in a threatening manner and slammed the car door shut with a paw. With several police officers behind him, he quickly found the tricycle suspected of speeding, and his gaze swept over the people around them. Whose car is this? Under Ajwa's intense gaze, the man in sunglasses didn't dare speak at all. It's mine. Then, in the next moment, Ajwa puffed out his chest and stepped forward. At that moment, both Wang Ling and Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal could feel the dazzling holy light radiating from Ajwa's back. Not only could he bear the white pot, he could also bear the black pot. Chapter 145. Of course, Ajwa would be able to escape unscathed. Songhai City's general administration of 100 schools was personally promoted by Secretary Sun Dakong. Anyone in his position would have to think twice about it. The traffic police captain didn't expect to bump into such a big shot here. He was so shocked that he was drenched in cold sweat. Even his speech was a little incoherent. His previous aggressive attitude was like a punctured balloon, deflating in an instant. Do you know me? Ajwa stared at the traffic police captain with a fake smile. Hearing Ajwa's question, the captain seemed to wake up from a dream. I never thought that Director Zhuo would be here. The police officers behind him didn't dare speak. Then this tricycle? Asked Ajwa. The traffic police captain immediately shook his head sensibly. Don't worry, Director Zhuo. Since this tricycle belongs to Director Zhuo, of course we won't deduct any points. Then my tricycle violated traffic regulations. Do I have to deduct points? Audiobook asked again. The traffic police captain sweated. There's no one driving the tricycle, so it's not Director Zhua's fault. Please don't worry, then, a fine? Audiobook asked again. The traffic police captain immediately shook his head like a rattle. No points, and naturally no fine, Director Zhua. Don't worry, nonsense, how would he dare? Watching on the side, Wang Ling and grenade-throwing senior Immortal criticized the current cultivation bureaucracy in their hearts. Who knew that in the next moment, Audiobook would press down on the captain's shoulder and look at the police number on the captain's right chest. PC 12138? Director Zhua, what's wrong? Audiobook looked at the traffic police captain righteously and shook his head. Comrade Captain, I think I need to give you a good scolding. As a traffic police captain, how can you bend the law for personal gain? I was just testing you just now. You've disappointed me. The captain and the police officers behind him all raised their heads with bewildered expressions. As an administrator and an enforcer of cultivation law, if you can't even pass this small test, how can you do great things in the future? Do you think your superior will trust you? Audiobook stared at the captain and reprimanded him very seriously. The captain's forehead was already drenched in sweat. Then, he pointed at Hospital Block 2. Do you know which old leader I'm visiting today? This was the former head of the Cultivation Police Department, Old Master Chen Yanshi. Before he was admitted to the hospital, he was still wholeheartedly serving the people and fighting for the fairness and justice of the law. Old Chen saw everything that you guys did today. The traffic police captain and the police officers behind him stood ramrod straight as they received Audiobook's personal instruction, not even daring to speak. The traffic police captain's shoulders trembled as he listened, and he lowered his head. Director Zhua is right. I feel very ashamed, it's all my fault. Audiobook nodded. So, deduct points when they should be deducted, and fine when they should be punished. Remember, you can't be afraid of him just because he's your leader, understand? The traffic police captain straightened his back and saluted Audiobook. Very well, leader. Audiobook nodded in satisfaction and finally added, deduct the points and punish the money. Leave the tricycle for me, and punish me less for the points and money. The police officer, after a moment of silence, the traffic police captain nodded weakly. Very well, leader. Wang Ling and grenade-throwing senior Immortal took deep breaths as they watched this scene. It could only be said that Audiobook was no longer that clueless Audiobook from before. After being promoted to the position of director, Audiobook had been able to come into contact with a lot more people, and the most obvious thing about him was that he was very slick and scheming. When Wang Ling returned home, Father Wang was upstairs working hard on behalf of his readers. Let Go of That Wet Nurse was coming to an end, and he had been wrapping up the last few days. For this reason, Father Wang had seriously reread all the chapters he had written before to confirm whether there were still any holes or suspense he had yet to fill in. For example, some of the great authors on some websites would leave a large part of the plot in the middle. They would never remember the holes that they had laid out for themselves. Then, at the end of the story, they would use a duel to end the story and take away the last villain. That would be the end of the story. The technical term for this method of writing was the bulldozer method of instantly filling in holes. To sum it up in 2 words, it was the legendary bad ending. Father Wang was a typical Virgo, and he wanted to ensure that the ending of his story was perfect. He absolutely wouldn't let the readers catch any loose ends. Wang Ling returned to the study and logged on to QQ, feeling bored to death. He noticed that the cultivation chat group seemed to be quite lively today. The main reason was that grenade-throwing senior Immortal had exposed Wang Ling's taking in a disciple on his way back, so in an instant, the chat group, which had been dead silent for the last few days, instantly became much livelier. Administrator Tsai Lingjinren sent a surprised emoji. Lingjinren has actually taken in a disciple? What does he look like? Is he strong? Don't they look talented, mighty, and majestic? Grenade-throwing senior Immortal quickly replied, he seems to only be at the golden core stage at the moment, but he's pretty good at doing things. Maybe that's why Lingjinren took him in as a disciple. Also, his face is very white, and he's very popular. The group was dead silent for a few seconds. Bulang Blade Immortal immediately jumped out. F***K. So, being very white and popular is Ling Zhenren's criteria for choosing a disciple? Xian Zhenren couldn't help ridiculing him. What's the use of being very white and popular nowadays? The key is to have freestyle. Grenade throwing senior immortal, Wang Ling, the group was chatting happily. At this time, 9 times in one night, suddenly sent a post to the group. Look at this post. I saw it in the Gossip World section of the Cultivation Forum. It mentions grenade throwing senior immortal and Ling Zhenren. Wang Ling stared at the link and was silent for a long time. He had a bad feeling about this. This was a post that had been posted half an hour ago. The ID of the poster was, Super High School Director. Just by looking at the name, Wang Ling already knew who this guy was. The subject of the post was, Today, I actually saw grenade-throwing senior immortal and the legendary Ling Zhenren in person. They're 2 of my 4 favorite seniors in the forum. As their little fanboy, I'm really super excited. I've finally achieved 2 of my 4 greatest achievements in life. Someone asked, then dare I ask, Your Excellency, what are your 4 greatest achievements in life? That poster's answer was as follows: Xian Zhenren's Little Punch, 0-1, Grenade-throwing senior immortals Bazahii, 1-1, Immortal Toya's Black Pineapple, 0-1, the last one, Ling Zhenren's Kiss, 1-1. Chapter 146. It was May 31st on Monday in the 6th week of school. The old man and Mother Wang were coming back from their trip today. Wang Ling had received news that they would be home at 5 or 6 o'clock in the evening. After not seeing her for a few days, Wang Ling really missed Mother Wang's nutritious breakfast, and wasn't used to not eating it for a few days. Of course, compared with Mother Wang's nutritious breakfast, Wang Ling actually missed the limited edition beef ramen-flavored crispy noodle snacks that the old man had brought him from south of the Heavenly River. When Wang Ling returned to school that morning, everyone in Grade 1, Class 3 focused their morning gossip on a street singer who had suddenly become popular on the internet yesterday. When Wang Ling heard this, he immediately knew that this street singer was definitely Tang Yuning. Based on the influence of Old Boys in the Other World alone, Wang Ling knew that Tang Yuning would definitely become a hit. But he hadn't expected it to happen so soon. It was said that gossip was contagious. From the quietness in the morning at the beginning of school to the habit of gossiping in Grade 1, Class 3, almost everyone in Grade 1, Class 3 had developed the habit of gossiping in the morning. Wang Ling felt that Master of Dopey was the one who had made the greatest contribution. It was all because of this guy. I heard that this subway bro has been a singer for a long time, and not long ago, he failed in an audition for a talent show. Who knew that he would suddenly become popular? Dopey Gua spread his hands and called Tang Yuning Subway Bro by the netizens. The reason why he was called Subway Bro was that Tang Yuning had sung Old Boys in the subway station, and had become popular after someone had filmed it and posted it online. In the video, Tang Yuning's hair wasn't combed, and his clothes and pants were street goods that could be bought for a few dozen yuan. Plus, that broken guitar. It made Tang Yuning look a little sloppy. But it was this unvarnished and unpackaged appearance that made Tang Yuning unwittingly feel a little more weathered when he sang Old Boys. In the video, it could be seen that as soon as Tang Yuning opened his mouth, many passers-by couldn't help stopping to listen. Everyone fell into an intoxicated state. In fact, apart from these, Tang Yuning's appearance was still very delicate. His slightly thin figure made most young people somewhat envious and yearned for it. Although this era didn't discriminate against fat people, people's aesthetic standards were still limited to bony beauty. As the girls in the class watched the video, they couldn't help but reveal a somewhat intoxicated expression on their faces. Tang Yuning was really too handsome. What kind of person was he? What kind of experiences did he have? To be able to write such a song? Of course, he didn't really care about Tang Yuning. Because no one would have thought that for Wang Ling, this song was as valuable as 2 bowls of beef noodles, 33 yuan and 70 cents. Teacher Pan had handed out a stack of flyers for the Tao Talisman's class in the morning. School teachers strictly forbade students from making up lessons in private, so the teachers in charge were afraid that it would affect the average grade of the class for students who couldn't keep up with the course progress. Therefore, the school's attitude was to encourage students to find private education institutions for tutoring. At least for number 60 high school, usually, there were small classes of 3 to 4 people, and medium classes of 8 to 10 people. Of course, the smaller the number, the more expensive it was. The main reason why number 60 high school was willing to hand out these flyers for private education institutions was because they were poor. Huagua Water Curtain Group's subsidy was still going through the process, which took a long time for a large enterprise. So before the official subsidy for the construction of the school was distributed, Headmaster Chen could only work hard to transform the school in this way. How poor number 60 high school was had always been a meme passed down by the older generation of seniors. What had left the deepest impression on them were the palm trees at the entrance with withered yellow leaves, which looked shabby but just wouldn't die. Every time Wang Ling passed by these palm trees, he would always associate them with that lightning-struck tree which had been full of vitality in the great wilderness. There were strong people in an earthquake, strong pigs in a flood, and there were strong trees in number 60 high school. As a student of number 60 high school, Wang Ling was already used to the school's naughty nature. But when Wang Ling received this flyer for a private education institution, his pupils contracted slightly. Because the private education institution advertised in this flyer was none other than Immortal Castle. Had they taken a fancy to number 60 high school and come here to sell fake medicine? Wang Ling stared at the flyer and was lost in deep thought. Today, there was a new patient on the 18th floor of secondary hospital's night shift building. The patient had been sent over from the emergency room yesterday. At that time, there hadn't been enough people on the night shift in the emergency room, and the leader of the health bureau had called all the chief surgeons who had been on their way home to come back halfway. Director Li had only been summoned by the hospital leader at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning after returning home. The main reason was that the patient hadn't been sent for treatment in time, and the operation hadn't progressed in time. By the time the patient had been sent to the emergency room, the doctors were already at their wits' end. He wasn't dead, but the nerves in his brain had been severely damaged, resulting in a serious mental disorder. The hospital leader couldn't withstand the pressure from the city bureau leader, and could only transfer the patient to Director Li's independent ward. That very night, he called for an expert consultation to see if there was any special treatment. At the same time, Grade 1, Class 3 was broadcasting Immortal Castle's advertisement, while Director Li was presiding over an expert seminar in the hospital. There were 8 experts from the Department of Brain Psychiatry, which was practically the strongest lineup in the independent ward to treat hard-to-treat mental illnesses. Standing at the head of the long conference table, Director Li sighed. "Before we start the meeting, can anyone explain how the patient's initial brain injury was caused?" An old expert with white hair and a beard quickly replied, "The initial diagnosis is chronic retrograde brain dysfunction syndrome, which is also known as the legendary concussion." "How was it caused?" Director Li asked with a frown. Another expert replied, "The patient doesn't have a family member, but according to the patient's leader, before the accident, the patient was hit by a tricycle." "A tricycle?" Director Li suddenly felt that this car seemed a little familiar. "Can you be more specific?" "According to the patient's description before he was conscious. I heard that after being hit by a tricycle, he drove his Maybach and was chased by a tricycle for 8 freeways. In the end, his symptoms flared up and he went into a short period of shock. He crashed through the guardrail of the freeway at a speed of 300 kilometers per hour, falling directly 50 meters from the ground and finally exploding." Chapter 147. Song Qingshu had never expected that the subordinate he had sent to keep an eye on him would come back in such a state. After being hit by a tricycle truck, being chased for 8 whole blocks while suffering from a concussion, and finally falling off the highway due to intermittent brain shock. Song Qingshu felt that the plot was basically, the Grim Reaper is coming. This tall man in a suit was called Fong Yan, and Xiao Fong had been working with Song Qingshu for a long time. Therefore, after Song Qingshu learned that Xiao Fong was injured, he immediately used his connections to arrange surgery for Xiao Fong as soon as possible. He directly skipped the tedious process of registering. Sometimes, saving time could really save a life. If he had waited for another registration time, Xiao Feng might really have died. But even so, Xiao Feng still missed the golden treatment time. After the expert meeting, Song Qingshu stood at the door and waited for Director Li to appear. Several old experts followed behind Director Li, shaking their heads and frowning as they sighed. After the discussion in the meeting just now, they hadn't come up with an effective way to treat the man in the suit, Fang Yan. As soon as he saw Director Li, Song Qingshu immediately went up to him and held his hand tightly. "Hello, Director Li. Is there any new discussion?" Director Li shook his head regretfully. "Well, not at the moment. To be honest, Mr. Fang's mental disorder is more serious than we thought. He's infinitely close to a vegetable." Infinitely close to a vegetable, does that mean he hasn't completely reached the stage of a vegetable? Doesn't that mean he can still be saved? "Mr. Song, you've misunderstood." Director Li looked at his watch and then looked at Song Qingshu seriously. "What I mean is, Mr. Fang still needs an expert's diagnosis. Just a minute ago, the expert already confirmed it. Now, Mr. Fang is already a vegetable." "Song Qingshu, is there no other way? Acupuncture with golden needles. Medicinal bath treatment. Money isn't a problem." "Director Li, Mr. Song, you have to understand that the nerves in the brain are quite complicated. Perhaps cultivators can use some methods to speed up the recovery of internal organs and skin injuries. However, brain problems, especially involving nerves, are the same for cultivators and ordinary people. Once injured, it's very difficult to cure. Acupuncture with golden needles and medicinal bath treatment, these common folk remedies in cultivation novels, how can they work?" Song Qingshu, Director Li, once, the hospital sent a nascent soul stage patient with cerebral hemorrhage. Our hospital prepared to perform a craniotomy on him. The operation lasted for 8 hours, but in the end, the patient's skull wasn't even cut open. Song Qingshu, just like that, after the great sage, the second sage, and the defected third sage, Song Qingshu once again lost a trusted general who could fight. Although Xiao Fang was only an assistant, he had indeed helped Song Qingshu solve many of his problems. Most importantly, even if Song Qingshu wanted to take revenge, he felt powerless. Because that tricycle belonged to grenade-throwing senior Immortal and that teenager, why? Why did it have to be these two? Song Qingshu felt that he really shouldn't have taken the initiative to provoke him. Xiao Fang wouldn't have ended up like this if he hadn't directed this. After a busy morning in the secondary hospital, Song Qingshu returned to the office in the afternoon to find that he still had a lot of work to do. He received a text message on his watch. It was from the lady of the castle, who was the Lord's personal secretary and had been with him for many years. As long as it was something she didn't really want to manage, be it big or small, she would handle it. But it was worth mentioning that this lady of the castle was very mysterious. Even Song Qingshu, a veteran employee of Immortal Castle for many years, had never seen her face. She was a mysterious woman. The only thing Song Qingshu knew about the lady of the castle was that she was very strong, far stronger than he was. Song Qingshu even felt that even the 10 saints might not be this lady's match. When Song Qingshu saw the text message from the lady of the castle, his mood was actually very complicated. Since Third Sage's defection, the lord of the castle had been very dissatisfied with his work. Previously, he would still communicate with the lord on the phone, but recently, he had left everything to the lady to handle. Song Qingshu knew that he was now in a very dangerous situation, because in Immortal Castle, once you were deemed to be a worthless person, the usual outcome was death. Over the years, Song Qingshu had helped the castle deal with some worthless people, but he had never thought that one day, he would face the same problem as these people. Working in Immortal Castle didn't give him any face, value was everything. The lord of the castle never liked to do business at a loss. Somewhat fearful, he opened the text message from the lady of the castle. The content of the message was very simple. The lady was asking about the trial of Immortal water. This was the potion that had caused the 3 Foundation Establishment high school students to mutate and become delirious. Song Qingshu was well aware that this was his last chance. No matter what, he had to do it beautifully. After thinking about how to phrase his words, Song Qingshu quickly replied, "Don't worry, lady. Everything has been arranged. I've already ordered people to secretly promote the trial of Immortal water." Less than a few microseconds after sending the message, the lady instantly replied with the speed of her hand, which she had been single for several thousand years. "That's good. This time, the Immortal water has been modified to reduce the risk of mutation. However, we still need to find people to conduct human experiments. How are the 3 students who had problems with their bodies?" Song Qingshu thought for a while, but in the end didn't reveal the matter of grenade-throwing Senior Immortal and that youngster. He replied, "Don't worry, lady, I've given them hush money and arranged for them to stay in a separate ward in the hospital. Nothing will get out." The lady quickly replied, "I know everything you're doing now. Yesterday, someone already came to the hospital to find out about the 3 students, right?" When Song Qingshu saw the message, he couldn't help breaking out in a cold sweat. The lady then sent another message. "You don't need to be nervous. As long as this matter hasn't been exposed by the media, you won't be in danger for the time being. If you do a good job with the trial of Immortal water, you can completely make up for your previous mistakes. The Lord of the Castle still believes in you, so he hasn't given up on you right away." Song Qingshu, "Thank you, lady. I've already contacted a school to promote Immortal water as an educational institution." The lady, "No need to thank me. That's right, what's the name of this school? You can find someone to test it first, in case something goes wrong." Chapter 148. It was June 1st on Tuesday in the 6th week of the semester. It happened to be Children's Day. When Wang Ling went to school, he noticed that there were a lot more naughty kids on the streets because of the holiday. When he came to class in the morning, Master of Dopey had already finished copying his homework. Sitting there, he pretended to stroke his beard as he sighed about how time waited for no man. I'm old. I'm old. I don't even have Children's Day anymore. Do you know, according to the latest age classification table issued by the Cultivation United Nations, people at our age are already having a midlife crisis. Speaking up to this point, Super Chin inexplicably started to feel a little sad. He felt that he actually looked quite sunny and not very old-fashioned. Because he was addicted to fitness and sports every day, he had a body full of muscles that boys were envious of. Sexy muscles and lines would add points to a boy's temperament. But even so, when he had been on the subway this morning, a cute little boy of 4 or 5 years old had still called him uncle. 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 At that time, Super Chen's heart had felt like it had been struck by lightning. His entire body had been electrocuted. This feeling was as bad as your girlfriend grabbing your lapel and seriously asking you who you should save first if you and your mom fell into the water at the same time. Uncle my ass. At the very least, you should call him Big Brother. But after Super Chen reacted, he felt that this analogy wasn't very appropriate, because he didn't have a girlfriend. And so, just like that, Super Chen and Master of Dopey, the duo who thought they were already doddering in their midlife crisis, were depressed over this matter for the whole morning. Speaking of Super Chen's muscles, Wang Ling also quietly rubbed his little belly. It was soft and very bouncy. Wang Ling analyzed the reason for his bulging belly. The main reason was that the limited edition beef ramen-flavored crispy noodle snacks that the old man had brought back from south of Tianhe had been too delicious. One night, he couldn't help but eat a box of them, and this was the price he had to pay for not having restraint. But a lot of young people nowadays didn't know how to control themselves. Wang Ling felt that he was actually a typical example. He didn't need to eat, but there were times when he was greedy. Most people wouldn't understand the world of a foodie. But Wang Ling didn't have to worry about gaining weight, he could just get rid of the extra flesh on his body when he got home. This was the reason why Wang Ling couldn't get fat. Gaining weight was something that couldn't be stopped. Sometimes, if one wasn't careful, one would grow fat. Wang Ling had always felt that there were two kinds of people at school who were very similar and could both be categorized as bitches. The first was a straight-A student who said that he had failed the exam after the exam. And the second was the skinny guy who bragged every day that he wouldn't get fat no matter how much he ate. At 2:00 in the afternoon, it was supposed to be time for the physical education class. Everyone was ready to rush to the sports field to take a breath of fresh air. However, the PE teacher appeared at the door of the class. Judging from his bitter expression, everyone immediately knew that today's PE class would most likely be cancelled again. Teacher Pan's chemistry class, Teacher Han Mimi's English class, Teacher Lu Ziming's mathematics class, no one dared to hog these classes. Whenever there was a school anniversary event, most of the time was taken up by PE class. Therefore, in school, the first unlucky person would definitely be the physical education teacher. The physical education teacher, Yi Han, has a head of naturally curly blonde hair, and looks rather tall and sturdy. Furthermore, through reading his memories, Wang Ling knew that Teacher Yi had a special hobby. He liked to clamp a towel between his legs and repeatedly rub it back and forth with each hand. It was said that this move was the famous move of the legendary father of sports philosophy, Harrington, which had the miraculous effect of strengthening muscles and bones and maintaining blood flow. Teacher Yi usually kept a low profile at school. He never competed with other teachers for class. As long as there was a need for physical education, he was the right person to look for. This was the so-called honest people are always easy to bully. Number 60 High School had accepted Immortal Castle's advertisement, and Headmaster Chen had given him the task of having each teacher in charge play a lecture video to promote Immortal Castle in class. Given Teacher Pan's personality, of course she wouldn't be willing to take up Wang Ling's class time. So, Teacher Yi was out of luck. Standing on the dais, Teacher Yi helplessly put down the blue notebook in his hand. He had originally planned to test the children in class today for a 1-kilometer run. If they couldn't run within 10 seconds, they would all fail. There were only 15 students in grade 1, class 3, so it wouldn't take a lot of time to test all of them. However, Teacher Pan still found him and asked him to play an educational lecture video provided by Immortal Castle in PE class. Students, you have to understand me, I'm also very helpless. While Teacher Yi complained on the dais, the boys complained under the dais. Only Li Xianjing took the opportunity to take out his homework with an indifferent expression on his face and quickly started to do it. This was the reason why Li Xianjing didn't bring his homework home after school, because he would finish all of it in class. Teacher Yi used the classroom projector to play Immortal Castle's so-called educational video, which was similar to an educational lecture. All the students in the elite class were already well aware of the routine of this kind of private education organization program. If this kind of program was put in the middle of the program or in the last few minutes, it would definitely start to promote the organization's peripheral products. As expected, when the program came to an end, the female host on the dais suddenly said in a clear voice, "Next, let's welcome the study leader from Immortal Castle with a round of applause to recommend a learning aid product to us." A fatty with a 5-stripe logo on his shoulder appeared on the screen. In terms of physique alone, he was thicker than Master of Dopey. He didn't look very handsome, but everyone recognized him. This was the top scorer in last year's college entrance examination, Tan Zhiming, who had directly entered a key cultivation university 211 with a super high score of 197,000. People gave him the nickname, 5-Stripe Leader. At that time, the news media had all hissed because this person had directly received a government subsidy of 3 super panacea pills. 3 whole super panacea pills. This was absolutely a godlike subsidy. Furthermore, it was said that this leader had only taken one of them, and had already broken through to the middle golden core stage. Standing on the dais, the leader shared his so-called secret to learning. Then, with a flash of spirit light, a bottle of potion appeared in his hand. He pinched it between 2 fingers and made a big peace sign with the camera. This. Immortal water. This is my secret to learning. Wang Ling immediately knew that this guy was definitely that mutated potion. When Wang Ling looked up, he was astonished to find that this potion had actually been improved. It had clearly been black before, but now it was actually rainbow-colored. And the most frightening thing was that right after the leader's promotion, the female host on the dais presented a joint appraisal certificate from 4 experts. These were the legendary 4 leading figures in the healthcare industry. Miracle Dr. 100 Changes Lu Hongbin, Diabetes Divine Handley Chiming, Supreme Rheumatism Wang Zhijin, Medicine Emperor Gao Zhenzhong with kidney deficiency. Chapter 149. It was actually quite common for educational institutions to promote healthcare products, but Wang Ling really felt that Immortal Castle had come to the wrong place. They had overlooked Lotus Sunday. As the young miss of a pharmaceutical company, she was naturally very sensitive to drugs. And it wasn't uncommon to see fake healthcare products on the market nowadays. She hadn't heard of any of the 4 experts in the video advertisement, so she was a little worried. During the break between classes, Lotus Sun called steward Lin San. Lu Hongbin. Li Chiming. Wang Zhijin. Gao Zhenzhong. On the other end of the line, old butler Lin frowned. His expression was a little serious. Eldest miss, are you sure that these 4 people were mentioned in the video? Lotus Sun nodded. There's no mistake. Old butler Lin fell silent. These 4 people often appear on some late-night health programs, pretending to be experts. Actually, he didn't have a physician's qualification certificate. People gave me the nicknames of Eastern Medicine, Western Lunatic, Southern Virtuous, Northern Mongolia. Lotus Sun was a little anxious. Doesn't this Immortal water have no guarantee? Lin San replied, it's more than that. There must be other risks associated with this kind of product that has a false certificate. Then Uncle Lin, what should we do now? Lotus Sun asked. Lin San nodded. Don't worry, eldest Mississippi. I'll give Headmaster Chen a call right now and use my authority as the school board to ban this educational institution from selling their products in the school. It had to be said that Lin San was very efficient. As soon as the call ended, the school on the other side immediately made the relevant joint work. Song Qingshu was anxious. He called Headmaster Chen's office. Headmaster Chen, you took our advertising fees. How can you go back on your word? Headmaster Chen had an apologetic expression on his face. We've already released the video advertisement in all the classes in the school. It's just that the board of directors of our number 60 high school doesn't think it's very reliable to sell Immortal water in school, and they're afraid of taking the risk. Do you want me to refund you the money? Song Qingshu's expression darkened. I don't care. Give me the director's phone number. I'll call them right away. Headmaster Chen said helplessly, Mr. Song, it's better if you don't waste your energy. Our board of directors is very busy every day. You can't call them right now. They would probably have to wait in line. At this rate, it'll probably take another half a year. Song Qingshu, who's on the board of directors? Headmaster Chen, oh. It's Sun Kaming, the CEO of Huaguo Water Curtain Group. His daughter is still studying here. Don't you know, Mr. Song? When Song Qingshu heard this, he felt like crying but had no tears. This school clearly had the CEO of Huaguo Water Curtain Group as a board member, but they still pretended to be poor every day. Hey! Was it a demon spirit? He wanted to report someone here for cheating advertising fees. Sometimes, when people were really unlucky, they couldn't even fill their teeth with cold water. Song Qingshu had only chosen the most inconspicuous school based on the statistics of the major colleges and universities in the city bureau. God knew that the young mistress of Huaguo Water Curtain Group was studying there. Now that Immortal Castle couldn't sell it at school, it could already be considered half a failure, but if he stopped now, it would mean that he had already lost. Song Qingshu had truly experienced the castle lord's heartlessness. Over the years, many people had died in the hands of the lord of the castle and were refined into demonic ghosts as pets. Whether it was a veteran employee who had been with the company for many years or a newbie who had just joined, as long as their performance wasn't up to standard and they didn't make any achievements, the only fate awaiting them in Immortal Castle was death. However, Song Qingshu didn't want to resign himself to his fate. he decided to run away before the mission was declared a complete failure. In a high-end luxury apartment in Songhai City, Song Qingshu was sorting out his belongings. He had used a forged ID card to buy a plane ticket, and was going abroad to hide for a while. Since Song Qingshu still hadn't been removed from his position, it wouldn't be difficult for him to create a fake identity. Furthermore, based on what he had learned over the years, Immortal Castle's current strength wouldn't be enough to chase him abroad. As long as everything went smoothly, Song Qingshu felt that his escape plan had an 80% chance of succeeding. Song Qingshu checked the briefcase for the last time and confirmed that he had brought all the fake documents to hide his true identity. Then, he separated all the fake documents into a wallet. Although they were all fake IDs, they were enough to pass them off as genuine. He had already gotten the help of the brother in the city cultivation police's technical department to change his online identity information, so it would be foolproof even if he went online to verify his identity. There were really too many things in the apartment, and because he was pressed for time, Song Qingshu couldn't take everything with him. But he didn't have to worry about not being able to fit them all. It was much easier for cultivators to run away than for ordinary people, and an ordinary spatial magic treasure could take care of everything. In addition to the leather wallet full of fake IDs, Song Qingshu's suitcase now contained clothes, magic treasures, and some of his treasured elixirs. Song Qingshu was sure that after the lord of the castle found out that he had run away, the first thing he would do would be to block all the bank accounts under his name. Furthermore, withdrawing a large amount of cash from the bank in a short period of time would raise suspicions, so after careful consideration, Song Qingshu decided to leave with the magic treasures and elixirs. After he left the country, he could sell some of the magic treasures that he had left unused for a considerable amount of money. Everything was ready. Carrying a small briefcase, Song Qingshu had just opened the door of the apartment when he saw a tall woman in a black jacket and sunglasses with long hair down to her waist standing in the doorway. The moment she saw Song Qingshu, the corners of her mouth curled into a sneer. "Mr. Song Qingshu, sure enough, you still want to run away." "You are?" Song Qingshu was stunned. This woman had to be an assassin sent by the lord or the lady. "I'm Azwa. I work for the lady of the castle. The lady already knew that you would run away." As this Miss Azwa spoke, she played lightly with her newly manicured nails. "Do you think you can fool the lady of the castle with this little trick of yours? There have been too many people who have run away over the years, and you and I can't kill them all." Song Qingshu instantly broke out in a cold sweat. He could feel that this woman was very strong. At the very least, she was at the soul formation stage. She was more than enough to kill him. "Miss Azwa, please let me go. Whatever you want, I can give it to you." Song Qingshu hugged his briefcase and trembled as he spoke. He was afraid in his heart, but he also sighed with emotion. In all the years he had held a high position in Immortal Castle, when had he ever been so submissive? Who would have thought that he would actually be reduced to this point today? "What do you think you can give me? Can't the lord and lady satisfy me?" Miss Azwa spread open her slender fingers, and Song Qingshu saw her blood-red nails emit a faint golden light. This woman wasn't carrying any magic treasures or weapons. She had actually refined her nails into magic treasures. "My nails are as powerful as a 7th-class holy weapon." The woman slowly leaned over, the layer of golden light on her nails surging even more violently as she stared fixedly at Song Qingshu under her sunglasses. A 7th-class holy weapon. Song Qingshu was utterly stupefied. A 9th-class holy weapon could easily injure anyone below the soul formation stage. If these nails with the power of a 7th-class holy weapon scratched him, he would definitely die. Whoosh! Azwa brandished her nails and directly grabbed at Song Qingshu. Song Qingshu closed his eyes tightly. That grab went straight through his briefcase, leaving 5 deep holes in it. "Don't worry, you won't feel any pain." However, after Miss Azwa's nails entered the briefcase, they seemed to be stopped by something and couldn't go any further. "What's going on?" She struggled with all her might. Then, there was a crack. She was horrified to find that her nails had actually been broken. Then, a huge force came from Song Qingshu's small briefcase, and Miss Oswald was actually sent flying and crashed into the wall behind her. The incredible impact caused Oswald to spit out a mouthful of blood, and she stared at Song Qingshu in disbelief. What on earth is inside? Song Qingshu quickly opened the briefcase to check. Very quickly, he found a pair of glowing long johns. Holding them up with both hands, Song Qingshu had a stunned expression on his face, because he had brought these long johns with him from the Wang family's small villa. He had been too anxious when he had been tidying up his clothes before, so he had put these long johns in as well. Chapter 150. At the elevator door on the 17th floor of the luxury apartment, Oswald leaned against the wall, gritting her teeth in pain. She hadn't expected Song Qingshu's briefcase to have such a powerful magic weapon. Not only had it blocked her attack, but it had also doubled the force back at her. The backlash just now had directly broken 2 of her ribs and seemed to have a slight concussion. She felt dizzy. What kind of magic weapon is this? Song Qingshu raised his eyebrows and pinched the glowing long johns as he looked at Oswa, shivering. It's long johns. Oswa. Then, Song Qingshu glanced at the logo and immediately realized that this pair of long johns was actually made by Nokia. No wonder it was so hard. Do you think you can escape? Oswa clutched her chest. A few years ago, there was a nascent soul cultivator at the same realm as you. He thought himself clever and tried to fake his death to seize a body again. But unfortunately, he was branded by the lord of the castle. As long as he was branded, the possession spell wouldn't be able to proceed smoothly. Once you enter Immortal Castle, everyone will be branded. You can't escape. Song Qingshu frowned and lowered his head to look at the long johns in his hands. He had brought these long johns from that family's villa in the wilderness. At that time, his subordinate had been so scared by the owner's terrifying spiritual pressure that he had peed himself, so the kind owner had given him a pair of long johns for him to change into. After that, he had run into that great death-courting senior outside the villa, and in the end, he had also peed himself. Thus, the long johns had ended up in his hands. At that moment, Song Qingshu lowered his head in deep thought. He was surprised to find that the source of all his failures seemed to have started from that unremarkable little villa. Furthermore, that great death-courting senior had a close relationship with that family. Song Qingshu was increasingly convinced that the owner of this villa was no ordinary person. If even a pair of long johns could be refined into a magic weapon and burst forth with such astonishing power, then wouldn't stealing a kitchen knife from inside be able to split the world? Miss Oswa, since you're already injured, I think it's better for you to hurry back and recuperate. We'll never meet again. Song Qingshu gripped the long johns tightly, then grabbed the briefcase with 5 small holes in it and turned to head down the stairs. Even though Miss Oswa was injured, Song Qingshu didn't think he could kill her. This was the lady of the castle's right-hand man, who knew what kind of magic treasure the other party would take out. But just as Song Qingshu was about to open the door and wave goodbye, Miss Oswa suddenly clutched her chest and slowly stood up from the ground. You want to run? At the crucial moment, Oswa didn't hesitate to take out a multicolored stone the size of a cobblestone. Spirit energy surged out of the stone and a force separated from it. Song Qingshu found that he couldn't move forward. Wuji stone. Song Qingshu recognized the stone at a glance. This Wuji stone is a magic treasure specially developed by the castle lord. You have the mark of the castle lord on you, so it's impossible for you to escape the punishment of the Wuji stone. I was worried that something might go wrong, so I borrowed it from the lady of the castle. Oswa had never expected to use the Wuji stone to detain someone. In her opinion, dealing with this Song Qingshu would be a piece of cake. This Wuji stone was like a super strong magnet that firmly latched onto Song Qingshu. Song Qingshu did his best to resist this force, but he couldn't take another step forward. He was just a little bit away from the corridor. Just a little bit more. He would be able to escape this demoness grasp. On the other side, Oswa took advantage of the Wuji stone's pull to slowly approach Song Qingshu's back. I told you, you can't escape. In the previous attack, the nails on Ozwa's right hand had been completely broken. But she still had her left hand. I don't know how you refined this magic treasure in the shape of Long Johns, but this time, I'll go all out. I'll use all my strength to send you to the netherworld. Ozwa wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth. Without the slightest bit of mercy, she endured the pain of her broken ribs and stretched out her claws to grab Song Qingshu. The nails on her left hand glowed with a faint golden light, and the strength of this grab was enough to pierce through Song Qingshu's skin. Although Song Qingshu really wanted to complain, this wasn't ***king magic treasure in the shape of Long Johns at all. This was a real pair of Long Johns. But seeing the woman's merciless attack, Song Qingshu was also angry. Fuck. I'm not running anymore. He had thoroughly experienced the Wuji Stone's power. As long as he had the Lord of the Castle's brand on him, he wouldn't be able to escape after taking out the Wuji Stone. But this Wuji Stone could only restrict his advance like a magnet, and couldn't truly lock him in place. Begging for mercy was useless, and running wasn't an option. Song Qingshu could only grit his teeth and look at the woman in front of him. He roared like a man, I'll fight you to the death. This time, Ozwa's strength was clearly much fiercer than before, and the strong wind carried destructive power. It was an ordinary claw strike without any magical embellishments, and all the glass on this floor was instantly shattered by the strong wind. Song Qingshu felt as if his face was no longer his own. There was a burning sensation of pain, and his skin was trembling like a ghost, and all he could do was raise his glowing Long Johns at this critical moment and shiver uncontrollably. Boom! There was a loud explosion on the 17th floor. Smoke and dust suddenly rose as Ozwa's claw struck the Long Johns with all her might. But this time, it only created a series of sparks. Instead, the strong toughness of the Long Johns caused the attack to rebound. Boom! Another loud sound rang out. The woman was sent flying by this force. Song Qingshu looked at the human-shaped hole in the 17th floor's wall, his heart still pounding with fear. After the chaotic battle, the dust seemed to have settled, and the entire 17th floor had suffered great destruction as if it had been hit by the apocalypse. Luckily, there was only one resident on each floor of this luxury apartment, otherwise Song Qingshu really couldn't imagine how many innocent people would be affected. Downstairs. What are you yelling for? How uncultured. Everyone has to go to work tomorrow. I've already called the property management. Just you wait. The resident upstairs was a golden core cultivator, and he yelled at the top of his lungs. Song Qingshu snapped out of his daze, and realized that it was time to escape. He hurriedly grabbed his briefcase and the protective Long Johns, and fled down the stairs. On the other side, Ozwa, the killer subordinate whom the lady of the castle had sent, had suffered a huge backlash, and was sent flying a full kilometer out of the building by a blast of air. In the end, she turned into a shooting star and crashed into the green belt near the highway. Ozwa had died. Her ribs were broken, her hands were crushed, her fingernails were all broken, and she was bleeding profusely, but she wasn't dead, and was only in shock. That pair of Long Johns had been enchanted by Wan Ling, and it had survived 2 consecutive backlashes. Chapter 151. It was hard to imagine how ferocious a soul formation cultivator's strength must have been to directly go into shock after suffering 2 backlashes. In the evening, Director Lee received another call from his leader. He would continue to deal with a patient who was on the Green Rescue Channel. On the way, Director Lee's assistant was reporting the situation to him. How's the patient's condition now? Initial diagnosis is that it's shock caused by a concussion. Director Lee was startled. How could it be another ***king concussion? Were cultivators' brains so fragile nowadays? What caused it? According to surveillance footage from Haixing Road, the cultivation police station found that the patient fell from the sky and hit the green belt. The cause is still under investigation. The assistant replied, but initial diagnosis is that the patient's injuries have nothing to do with the fall, and her concussion had already formed before the fall. The cultivation police station has sent Officer Wang, who is very experienced in criminal investigation. Based on his assessment, he believes that the real cause of the patient's injuries is related to the explosion in that high-end apartment building a kilometer away. Director Lee nodded. I understand. I'm on my way there now. Follow up on the situation, and once you understand the cause of the patient's injuries, be sure to let me know right away. The city police station has given me another order to save this person's life at all costs. The assistant, don't worry, Director, Officer Wang is very experienced, and he's doing his best to investigate the case. He's analyzing the cause of the case. Just now, he finished watching an entire season of Detective Conan. For some reason, Director Lee wanted to cry but had no tears. Sure enough, studying medicine couldn't save a cultivator. At around 10:00 that night, a person who shouldn't have been there appeared outside the Wang family's small villa. Song Qingshu stood at the entrance of the villa with a briefcase with 5 holes in his left hand and a pair of long johns tightly clenched in his right hand. According to Song Qingshu's original plan, he should have taken a supersonic plane to Mishio Nation. But at the last moment, Song Qingshu realized that he had chickened out. He had fled Immortal Castle in an attempt to break away from the organization, and had even seriously injured the lady's right-hand man, Azwa. The lady would definitely mobilize all her forces to hunt him down and kill him. Song Qingshu felt that he had no way out. Even if he escaped abroad now, it was still very unsafe. What should I do? Song Qingshu pondered for a long time in the small garden downstairs of the apartment complex, quietly reviewing his life. He felt that everything he had done since he was young had not been smooth sailing. Once, he deliberately tricked people in a ranked match. In the end, he met a youth with explosive hand speed. That person called himself Yi Xiao and used a hero to smash 5 people on the other side. He killed the other side more than 30 times in a row, and in the end, the other side surrendered. Once again, he snatched a lollipop from a child at home, only to be beaten up instead. Not only did that child say that he was a disciple of Shaolin Temple, that he had learned Qigong from Qigong master Wang Lin, and that he had learned the S-shaped snakeskin movement from the talk show actor Bobo. Another time, he peeped at a young lady bathing, and was almost caught and beaten into a muscle by her boyfriend. That person claimed to be the campus belle's personal expert, and that he had countless girlfriends, all of whom he King got along with. While Song Qingshu was thinking about life, the sirens of the cultivation police car and the fire department's rescue vehicle, accompanied by a dazzling red warning light, swaggered through the entrance of the residential area. In that moment, it was as if a drop of glycerin had been poured into Song Qingshu's brain, and he instantly figured it out. Now that things had come to this, he had nowhere to go. If he had to find a way out, the Wang family's small villa was his only way out. But what reason did he have to look for the seniors in this villa? Song Qingshu looked at the long johns in his hand, which had saved his life twice, and clenched his teeth, so now, he stood at the entrance of the Wang family's small villa. It was past 10:00, but no one was asleep in the Wang family's small villa. Mother Wang was upstairs brushing up on her face and putting on a face mask, while Father Wang was still working hard for his readers in the study. Downstairs, the old man was watching a new large-scale ethical drama called Take Me Along, Old Driver. This drama told the story of a disabled but strong-willed retired driver who, in order to realize his dream of becoming a champion driver, took his 2 daughters racing on Mount Xiaoming, and in the end trained them to become champion drivers. The old man was lost in the drama when the villa's doorbell suddenly rang. He was old and a little hard of hearing, and only came back to his senses after the doorbell rang for a while. At the same time, Wang Ling, who was on the 2nd floor, also looked down. "Who is it?" With his hands behind his back, the old man strolled over unhurriedly. As soon as he opened the door, he saw a man standing at the entrance, looking a little down and out. Judging from his appearance, the man was already in his 30s. He looked a little haggard, had a scraggly beard, and looked a little slovenly. The old man narrowed his eyes. "You are?" Song Qingshu probed him with his spiritual senses, and found that the old man standing in front of him seemed to be just an ordinary old man without any spirit energy to speak of. Even so, Song Qingshu still didn't dare be the slightest bit negligent. What if, the other party was deliberately hiding his strength? Senior. He looked at the old man timidly, and after a moment, he finally took a deep breath. As if summoning up his courage, he looked at the old man in front of him and held up the long johns with both hands. I'm here to return the long johns. Old man Wang was blank for a moment, and then realized that the long johns really did belong to him. This was because old Master Shen had bought these long johns from the textile market back then. During the mass sale, old Master Shen had bought dozens of them at once. He could tell at a glance that they were familiar to him. They're my long johns. The old man nodded, then looked at Song Qingshu and asked, do you have a problem? Even though it had been almost an hour since Oz's assassination attempt, Song Qingshu's hands were still trembling. He was a little speechless, and didn't know what to say. When all was said and done, the old man was an experienced veteran. When he was young, he had seen all kinds of people. He had also been a chef for decades, and had seen all kinds of diners. Like a roundworm, the old man knew what those diners were thinking when they frowned. The old man could tell that Song Qingshu's real purpose wasn't as simple as returning the long johns. He probably had something else to ask of him. Furthermore, it was already so late, so it was obviously a little unusual for him to come knocking at this time. Chapter 152. Song Qingshu tiptoed through the door, feeling a little guilty. After all, in order to fight for the stone ghost mask a few times in the past, he had even sent his subordinates to forcefully snatch it from them. But now, Song Qingshu had completely thought it through. The strength of this family was already not something he could go against. A pair of long johns had been able to send the lady of the castle's capable subordinate, Ozwa, flying with a backlash on the spot. How terrifyingly strong was this senior who could refine such a magic treasure? The old man poured Song Qingshu a glass of water, put it on the coffee table, and pushed it in front of him. Do you have anything to say? The old man had always been an easygoing person. His eyes would narrow into slits when he smiled in particular, making him look very benevolent. However, Song Qingshu didn't dare let down his guard in the Wang family's small villa. Although he hadn't sensed the slightest trace of spirit energy from the old man, there was a good saying, those with squinting eyes were monsters. Who knew whether this great senior was testing him or not? And this glass of water, could he drink it? Should he drink it? Or was this a test from the senior? Song Qingshu stared at the glass of water, lost in endless thought. This scene was exactly the same as grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's expression at the dinner table back then, wondering whether he should eat the broccoli that Grandfather Wang had picked out for him or not. Song Qingshu realized that coming to the Wang family's small villa was a little bad. He kept feeling like someone was staring at him from behind. He didn't understand why this villa, which clearly looked ordinary and didn't even have a spirit array to decorate it, gave off such an oppressive feeling that came from the depths of one's soul. After 10 minutes of silence, Song Qingshu felt like a child who had been caught copying homework by the class teacher in the morning, and finally confessed everything in front of the old man. Because Song Qingshu talked a lot, he almost told the whole story to the old master. The old man was getting on in years, and couldn't react for a moment. After sorting out his thoughts with great effort, he replied unhurriedly, "Oh, you were the one who wanted to buy that mask in the first place? But that mask was taken away by Little Lei." Little Lei? Song Qingshu felt like his 3 views had been overturned. Nowadays, how many people would dare call that great death-courting senior that? Suddenly, Song Qingshu felt even more respect for old man Wang. Even if he carefully searched the old man's body, he still couldn't find any spiritual power. However, this old man was already a great senior in his heart. Moreover, Song Qingshu had no doubt that this old man was a living fossil-level figure. Because you didn't buy the mask for your boss, now your boss wants to kill you. Is that what you mean? The old man sighed. He felt that young people nowadays were too noisy. It was just a mask. It was not a big deal. It was all about fighting and killing. But the old man felt that he didn't have the ability to help Song Qingshu in this matter. After thinking for a bit, he stretched out his leg and lightly scraped Loopy Toad's little butt, intending to have Loopy Toad call Wang Ling down. Loopy Toad's rest had been disturbed, and it was a little grumpy. Song Qingshu glanced at the Akita with strange fur. He thought it was just a domesticated pet, but when it was kicked up by the old man, it glared at him angrily. Song Qingshu felt like he had seen this look somewhere before. This definitely wasn't an ordinary dog. For some reason, the moment he met the dog's eyes, Song Qingshu saw a demon king standing on top of a cliff, leading thousands of demons. The demon king stood there, his eyes sharp and full of vigor. With a flip of his hand, he could destroy heaven and earth. Song Qingshu was dazed. Was he imagining things? The old man, our Wang Ling, brought this dog back from school. The school leaders came and forbade us from raising it. But this little guy is very protective of its owner and is very easy to raise. I see. Song Qingshu breathed a sigh of relief at the old man's explanation. May I ask, Senior, who is Wang Ling? Wang Ling is my grandson. My grandson is still in high school. Still, in high school? Song Qingshu felt that his three views had been refreshed. What kind of family was this? Song Qingshu, which high school is it? The old man, number 60 high school. Song Qingshu, under normal circumstances, the old man would get excited at the mention of his grandson. The pride and arrogance of the older generation toward their grandchildren was indescribable. But he couldn't say too much to Song Qingshu. The old man had never been willing to get involved in matters between cultivators. Being able to sit here and listen to Song Qingshu ramble on for so long was purely because the old man was displaying his humanitarian spirit as a resident committee grandpa. If it was a quarrel between a couple, the old man felt that he might be able to mediate on behalf of Bai Wanqing, but when it came to cultivation, the Wang family could only rely on Wang Ling. Actually, while he was still on the second floor, Wang Ling had already heard Song Qingshu complaining to the old man. He was now being hunted down by Immortal Castle, and even if he escaped abroad, he might not be able to protect himself, so he could only come to the Wang family for help. Logically speaking, Wang Ling didn't want to get involved at all, but just as he was about to deal with it coldly, his damn eyelid started to twitch wildly again. It had been a long time since his eyelid gave him a warning. If he ignored this matter, the outcome would be even worse. After deep contemplation, Wang Ling slowly walked downstairs. He was still wearing big white bunny pajamas, and the soft adorable clothes and that unsmiling, expressionless face formed a strong contrast. When Wang Ling went downstairs, the old man had already returned to his side to continue watching his drama, leaving Song Qingshu alone. Song Qingshu was a little nervous and a little confused. He didn't know why this great senior had pushed this matter onto his grandson, who was still in high school. But when he saw Wang Ling approach him in pajamas, which contrasted greatly with his appearance, Song Qingshu was completely stupefied. Because even if the person in front of him turned to ash, he would never, ever forget him. He was certain that this was the youngster in white who had appeared at grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's villa when he and the 10 saints had gone to fight over the stone ghost mask, and who had caused Great Saint and Second Saint to die from the backlash. Not only had this youngster killed Great Saint and Second Saint, he had also incited Third Saint to defect. The most important thing was that he had a very close relationship with grenade-throwing Senior Immortal. In any case, this youngster was the main culprit behind their current predicament, but Song Qingshu had never expected that after going around in a big circle, the person he had finally found to help would actually be this youngster. Song Qingshu felt really angry, but now, he was already at his wit's end. Apart from this youngster, no one could help him. On the side, Loopy Toad glanced at Song Qingshu and silently lowered its head. It then walked over to Song Qingshu and stretched out its paw to pat his leg comfortingly. Chapter 153. He called grenade-throwing Senior Immortal over from Wenxian Garden. Song Qingshu had come to ask for help. This matter needed to be considered at length. After receiving the message, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal immediately galloped over on sheep. It took him less than 5 minutes to get to the Wang family's house. After grenade-throwing Senior Immortal took sheep back, he entrusted one of his little brothers who was good at upgrading immortal tools to repair the car. When he had heard that Wang Ling was looking for him that night, he had seized the opportunity to return the tricycle. When he reached the entrance, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal saw that the main door of the Wang family's villa was slightly ajar. Wang Ling had opened it through the air. Then, Song Qingshu saw Great Death-Courting Senior and a pink-haired loli wearing blue lace suspenders and shorts enter the door. The little loli looked like she was only 6 years old. Her hair was tied up in a bun and she was wearing a gray windbreaker. Her big eyes blinked as she looked around. Song Qingshu's heart couldn't help jumping when he saw grenade-throwing Senior Immortal holding little loli's hand. He had never heard that this Great Death-Courting Senior had a daughter. Where had this little loli come from? After entering, the first thing grenade-throwing Senior Immortal saw was Grandfather Wang watching a drama, which was the recently popular Take Me Old Driver. He did not dare to disturb the old man watching the drama, but at this moment, he had already decided that when he returned home today, he would carefully watch the drama from beginning to end. Who knows, he might be able to comprehend the mysteries of heaven. Yes. Great Senior's every action has a purpose. Leading sheep in front of Wang Ling, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal was stunned when he saw Wang Ling's pajamas. Damn, Brother Ling, aren't you a little cute today? Then, he cupped his fists in salute to Wang Ling, who was wearing big white bunny pajamas. Brother Ling, I've brought you sheep. Wang Ling stared at the little girl and raised his eyebrows. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal rubbed Lolita's little head. Brother Ling, are you relieved now? Wang Ling cupped his chin in his hand and nodded. This already wasn't sheep's first time materializing. It was just that the last few times it had materialized, because of the rust and peeling paint on the tricycle, the clothes and accessories it had materialized had been too horrible to look at. Now that he had taken care of it again, it was indeed much better. Sheep pointed at grenade-throwing Senior Immortal with a face full of excitement. This uncle found someone to help me paint, wax and lubricate it. It's very comfortable. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal. Somehow, Wang Ling felt that there was something strange about this. After listening to Song Qingshu's explanation of what had happened, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal looked at him and laughed. It turns out you were the one who sent that bunch of people who fought us for the stone ghost mask back then. Now that he's been abandoned and is being hunted, he's come to us for help. If you knew this would happen, why did you do it in the first place? Song Qingshu sighed and revealed an expression of great bitterness and hatred. Now that things have come to this, I have no way out. I can only seek help from the two seniors. If the two seniors can help me, I can help the two seniors get what they want. Tell me about it first. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal leaned back on the sofa and hugged Sheep from behind. Sheep twisted her body with a look of disgust, struggling to free herself. I know that the seniors have been looking for information on the maker of the stone ghost mask, Song Qingshu said as he looked at Wang Ling and grenade-throwing Senior Immortal. Hearing this, Wang Ling and grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's eyes lit up. You have a lead? Song Qingshu nodded solemnly. Yes. This information had been given to him by Zhou Jia, the leader of Green Gang, and was more than 90% accurate. In fact, Song Qingshu knew that he was in no position to negotiate at all. Cultivators nowadays had all sorts of ways to extract memories, and given the strength of these two people, it would be as easy as turning over their hands to read his memories. But he wasn't stupid. Long before he had come to the Wang family's villa, he had sealed his memories with a curse. If the curse was forcibly removed, all his memories would disappear. Song Qingshu was well aware that this was his only bargaining chip. Even so, he still couldn't guarantee that this Senior Immortal didn't have any other way to pry into his memories. After all, this was a great senior who could transform a pair of long johns into a soul formation cultivator and cause him to suffer a backlash. You're smart to use a curse to seal your memories. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's eyes twinkled as he looked at Song Qingshu. This was the heavenly eye of a soul formation cultivator. Although it was far inferior to Wang Ling's, it wasn't hard for it to pick up some clues. But very quickly, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal frowned when he noticed a black stain on Song Qingshu's soul, and he exclaimed, "A soul brand?" Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had seen a lot of soul brands. The more dangerous a brand was, the darker its color would be. For example, the soul brand on Song Qingshu's body had already King turned into a black fungus. Song Qingshu lowered his head and sighed. The lord of the castle plants a soul brand like this on everyone who works in Immortal Castle. Grenade-throwing senior Immortal cupped his chin in contemplation. There were actually a lot of ways to remove a soul brand. But Song Qingshu's brand was already too deep, and it was very difficult to remove it with ordinary methods. The lord of the castle brand on Song Qingshu's soul was like a time bomb. Not only was there a risk of its location being exposed, it was also extremely easy for the person to be remotely cursed. Brother Ling, do you have any way to remove the soul brand? Grenade-throwing senior Immortal asked with a frown. Wang Ling nodded, then got up and went to the bathroom on the first floor of the Wang family's small villa. He rummaged through a cupboard and took out a red bag. On the side, Grenade-throwing senior Immortal and Song Qingshu were stupefied when they saw this familiar packaging. Grenade-throwing senior Immortal. Brother Ling, this is... Wang Ling opened the bag. The pure white granules in the bag glowed with a golden light and gave off the fragrance of honey locust. This was a bag of mystical washing powder which he had already blessed. At the same time, a woman approached outside the Wang family's small villa. She was wearing a cheongsam and a pair of red high heels. She had followed Song Qingshu's soul brand to this place. This is the place. Do you think the lord of the castle won't know if you hide here? The woman sneered. She had already smelled Song Qingshu. Song Qingshu, come out and die. I'm here on the lady's orders to avenge Azwa. The woman didn't move, but her furious voice pierced straight into the heart and was deafening. But unfortunately, there was no reply to this voice. Damn it. Song Qingshu, if you're willing to be a turtle and don't dare come out, this old lady will charge in. I swear, I'll kill everyone in this villa. The woman in the red cheongsam flew into a rage. Just as the woman was about to storm the villa and carry out her next move, the front door of the Wang family's small villa opened. Chapter 154. It was already close to midnight when Song Qingshu arrived at the Wang family's house to ask for help. To be honest, Immortal Castle had arrived faster than Song Qingshu had expected. If he had arrived at the airport at this time, he would have been caught red-handed before he could even take off. Now, Song Qingshu was a little glad that he had made the right choice. With Grenade-throwing senior Immortal and this senior white rabbit with an unfathomable realm, they would definitely be able to protect him. Song Qingshu had given Wang Ling the nickname, White Rabbit, on the spot. At that moment, the big quaint pendulum clock on the first floor of the Wang family's small villa had struck 10 times, and it was exactly midnight. Wang Ling came to the door in his pajamas. The woman in the red cheongsam at the door stopped hooting and looked at Wang Ling and Song Qingshu behind him as she said coldly, finally willing to come out. Miss Ayu, you shouldn't have come. Song Qingshu came out from behind Wang Ling. Perhaps it was because of Wang Ling and Grenade-throwing senior Immortal's presence, but he was a lot more confident. You seriously injured Azwa and tried to defect from Immortal Castle. This is already a capital offense, you roared. At the same time, the bones in her right hand cracked like a bundle of extremely tough beef tendons. They twisted at an incredible angle and finally started to spin at high speed like an electric drill. This woman had actually refined her right hand into a magic weapon. Song Qingshu was well aware that in terms of realm and overall qualities, this you could definitely kill him in a second in every aspect. They weren't on the same level of realm, and it would be as easy as killing a chicken or a dog for her to crush someone with a lower realm. In a normal one-on-one fight, it was impossible to kill someone with a higher realm. But Song Qingshu wasn't the least bit nervous. He slowly got into position and stretched out his hand to wave at the other party. Make your move. Compared with Azwa, this Miss Ayu's attack style was clearly more violent. The electric drill in her right hand was like a godly weapon that could split the heavens and the earth. Accompanied by a dazzling light, this Miss Ayu stood up and swooped down like a fierce dragon crossing the river, swiftly launching an attack. From Azwa's fingernails to Ayu's entire right hand, even grenade-throwing senior Immortal had never heard of this method of refining body parts into magic artifacts. This Yu's attack was clearly more aggressive than U's was. While still in the air, her right hand curled up a vast expanse of lightning and came crashing down. In the face of this lightning-toxic dragon drill, Song Qingshu's response was nothing fancy. He just crossed his arms in front of him. He couldn't even see Yu's path of attack. This was the embodiment of the gap between their realms. The woman's movements were simply too fast, and his eyesight couldn't capture them at all. In an instant, the two collided, and the surrounding air waves roared as if they were galloping. The might of this lightning-toxic dragon drill was extraordinary. It struck Song Qingshu's crossed arms, and the enormous force directly caused the ground to shatter bit by bit. Song Qingshu's entire body was embedded into the ground like rivets. However, as the woman attacked, a golden light shone from Song Qingshu's arm. Boom! Then, the golden light on his arm exploded on the spot, and the woman's right hand was blown into a bloody mess. Her body was as light as a scarecrow as she was directly sent flying. She directly broke the thick old tree behind her and skidded along the ground for several hundred meters before she came to a stop. This scene was a little familiar. Azwa had been seriously injured by the backlash from this golden light. In contrast, apart from some dust, Song Qingshu wasn't injured in the slightest. Song Qingshu climbed out of the pit and shook off the dust on his body. He couldn't help turning his head to give Wang Ling a thumbs up and a grateful look in his eyes. Senior. Your long johns are so useful. Wang Ling, Yu's cheongsam had already been torn to shreds, and she slowly crawled up from the ground barefoot on trembling legs. Her entire right arm was rotten, and the flesh and bone were almost in a state of disintegration, dripping with blood. It was only because of the woman's realm that she had the upper hand. Otherwise, under the same circumstances, an average cultivator wouldn't have been able to endure this kind of pain and would have passed out long ago. Song Qingshu walked briskly to the woman. They were hundreds of meters apart, but it took him less than a few milliseconds to reach her. Enduring the pain, Yu glanced at Song Qingshu. Given your realm, there's no way you could be this fast. I used a magic treasure. Song Qingshu pointed to the ground and stuck out his big toe. Yu was stunned to realize that it was actually a pair of flip-flops. I came to ask Senior Wang for help before, and we had a good chat at his house. I didn't expect you to suddenly attack me, and I didn't even have time to change out of my slippers, Song Qingshu said. This lady of the castle's right-hand woman, Yu, looked at this scene in disbelief. Are you joking? As Song Qingshu spoke, he took off his outer clothes to reveal a set of red long johns. Look, these long johns are also from Senior's house. It was thanks to these two magic treasures that I was able to block your attack. Otherwise, I would have been dead long ago. You couldn't accept this outcome at all, and she directly spat out a mouthful of blood. This. What kind of joke was this? Senior Wang is kind and generous, and doesn't want to cause trouble. But you've disturbed his rest time, and again, go back and tell the Lord that Senior Wang has already agreed to protect me, and tell him to be careful. If he wants to live a few more years, it's best if he doesn't cause trouble, Song Qingshu said in a low voice. Wang Ling felt that after Ajua, he had been blackmailed again. You actually dare threaten the Lord? Let me tell you, I'm already mentally prepared to come here today. Even if I can't go back, I'll kill you. The woman stared at Song Qingshu malevolently, but very quickly, she had a panicked expression on her face. What's going on? Why can't I sense your soul brand? Do you want to use the power of a curse to kill me? Song Qingshu smiled slightly. Unfortunately, before you arrived, Senior Wang had already helped me wash it off with detergent. Detergent? Yu was dumbfounded. Logically speaking, the soul brand that the Lord had left on Song Qingshu was already irremovable. What the hell was this detergent? Could it really remove 99 kinds of stains? What a scam. Do you have any last words? Song Qingshu asked. Do you know that you're in big trouble now? Azwa and I might be working for the lady, but we were hired by her. We don't really belong to Immortal Castle, but Immortal Mansion. If you dare do this, Immortal Mansion won't let you off." The woman sneered as she stared at Song Qingshu. "Besides, although I'm injured, as long as those two don't make a move, do you think you, a nascent soul cultivator, can kill me? Immortal Mansion?" Hearing this, Wang Ling's and grenade-throwing senior Immortal's pupils contracted slightly. "Is that what you want to say?" But Song Qingshu didn't care at all. After being hunted down by Immortal Castle for so long, he had been on edge for so long, now, he was enjoying the thrill of a counterattack. As he spoke, a toothpick appeared in his hand, which he had just brought out of the Wang family's small villa. Saying that, the toothpick flew out with spirit energy and directly pierced the woman's forehead. The woman died with everlasting regret. The skull of a soul formation cultivator was so hard that it didn't fear worldly objects at all. The woman had never expected that in the end, she would actually die because of a toothpick. The spirit energy attached to the toothpick exploded in the woman's head, and this tiny toothpick directly blasted a bloody hole the size of a fist in her forehead. Chapter 155. Everything came to an end for the time being. After Ah Yu's death, Song Qingshu finally had some breathing room for the following period of time. But the truth was that Immortal Castle's revenge had just begun. Song Qingshu was well aware that the lady of the castle wouldn't let him off so easily after he had severely injured Ah Zua and killed Ah Yu. Stronger killers might appear at any time in the future, but Song Qingshu already had nothing to fear. After all, he was a man with long johns. Furthermore, the soul brand on his body had already been washed away by Senior Wang's mystical washing powder. From now on, it wouldn't be as easy for Immortal Castle to find him. "Since I was a child, I've never succeeded in doing anything bad. If I had known this would happen, I wouldn't have helped the wicked." Song Qingshu sighed in his heart as he took out a bottle of purple liquid. It was a bottle of body-dissolving liquid. Song Qingshu poured the whole bottle over Ah Yu's body. A pungent stench wafted over as the tattered red qipao on Ah Yu's body started to corrode. This qipao was originally a protective immortal treasure, but it still couldn't withstand the powerful corrosive power of the body-dissolving liquid. However, the power of this bottle of body-dissolving liquid was also limited. It only corroded the qipao, while the body remained intact. Song Qingshu was bewildered. This body-dissolving liquid could instantly melt the body of a nascent soul cultivator, but it had no effect on a soul formation cultivator. Sure enough, the gap between the nascent soul stage and the soul formation stage was just too big. Song Qingshu thought that he had been stuck at this realm for a long time, and he couldn't help feeling sad. "Is there any more body-dissolving liquid?" Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal asked. Song Qingshu took out another bottle from his pocket. "There's only one bottle left, give it to me." Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal took the bottle, opened the cap, and sprinkled a little white granular powder into it before shaking it evenly. Song Qingshu's face was full of amazement. "Senior, may I ask, what is this powder?" Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal: "Of course it's mystical washing powder from your Senior Wang's family." Song Qingshu: After the detergent had completely dissolved in the body-dissolving fluid, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal poured the fluid over the body again. This time, the woman's body directly turned into steam and started to evaporate quickly. Furthermore, after the detergent dissolved in the body-dissolving fluid, the pungent stench actually disappeared, and instead, there was a pungent fragrance of soap. Song Qingshu couldn't help giving Wang Ling a thumbs up. Senior White Rabbit King was really a god. "Senior Wang, may I ask if your toilet cleaner spirit has the same effect? Could dichlorvos poison soul formation cultivators to death?" Wang Ling, the three of them guarded Ah Yu's corpse, waiting for it to completely disappear. At the same time, along with a few flashes of light, a few objects appeared beside the corpse. These things had originally been hidden in Ah Yu's ear-shaped storage space. After the body-dissolving fluid had corroded the storage space, the things in the space had been scattered around the corpse like equipment dropped in a game. Perhaps because it was a temporary assassination mission, the woman did not bring much with her. Among them was a strangely shaped black weapon. It looked like a magic sword with a hilt, but the blade was very strange. It was made up of 7 black beads strung together. Song Qingshu was stupefied as he held up this black magic sword. Are female cultivators at the soul formation stage nowadays also so insatiable that they actually carry vibrators on them? Wang Ling, grenade-throwing senior immortal, recognized this object. This is the 7 Stars sword. 7 Stars sword? I've read about it in ancient books. This is a first-class holy weapon, one of the 3 great magic treasures used by Immortal Zhenyuan back then. The other 2 are the purple gold gourd and the golden canopy rope. I never thought it would actually be on this person, said grenade-throwing senior immortal. Immortal Zhenyuan, Song Qingshu couldn't help shrinking his neck when he heard this name. This was a legendary figure, from the same era as the legendary Devil Emperor Guapai. Furthermore, in the earliest days, when the gate between worlds had descended on Earth and a large number of demons had invaded, it was Immortal Zhenyuan who had been the first to find a way to close the gate between worlds. Grenade-throwing senior immortal cupped his chin and said thoughtfully, legend has it that this 7 Stars sword has the power to move mountains, and can mobilize the power of the earth for its own use. Song Qingshu, then why isn't she using it? A first-class holy weapon is already extraordinary. Generally speaking, a soul formation cultivator can only use a 4th or 5th class holy weapon, grenade-throwing senior immortal said. Grenade-throwing senior immortal said, it's worth investigating why this 7 Stars sword appeared in this woman's possession. As they spoke, their gazes swept over the objects that had exploded on the ground. In addition to the 7 Stars sword, there were some elixirs of unknown uses and a bottle of purple liquid scattered around. That purple liquid was the body-dissolving liquid. According to the woman's original plan, she had obviously been to directly destroy Song Qingshu's corpse after dealing with him. Unfortunately, the woman had never expected this to be the final outcome. Scanning the area, it seemed that she didn't find anything else of value. Grenade-throwing senior immortal withdrew his gaze disinterestedly, then picked up the 7 Stars sword to examine it carefully. Only this 7 Stars sword could be considered an unexpected gain. After asking for Wang Ling's opinion, grenade-throwing senior immortal unceremoniously put it into his pocket. Wang Ling didn't care about a mere first-class holy weapon at all. His body had long since become a sage, and there was almost no magic weapon in the world that could harm him with this body alone. But among the objects scattered on the ground, there was still one that Song Qingshu and grenade-throwing senior immortal had overlooked, and which caught Wang Ling's attention. Wang Ling crooked his finger, and that thing directly flew into his palm. It was a palm-sized bronze plate which was very thin and only as thick as a 1 yuan coin. A lotus flower was carved on it, and Wang Ling thought that this probably represented some sort of identity or organization that the woman truly belonged to. He recalled the woman's clamor that she was from Immortal Mansion. Was this an Immortal Mansion token? Wang Ling didn't dare be 100% sure. Unfortunately, the woman was already dead. Song Qingshu had been a little ruthless in directly blowing up her brain, otherwise Wang Ling would have been able to use the memory exploration spell to look for clues. Song Qingshu stared blankly at the bronze plate in Wang Ling's hand, then looked at the 2 of them and asked, "Seniors, do you know what kind of organization Immortal Mansion is?" Wang Ling frowned. His intuition told him that this organization wasn't simple. Furthermore, his 6th sense had always been very accurate. "I think I've heard of this organization somewhere before, but I think that the 7 Stars sword in this woman's hand is most likely inextricably linked to this organization." Grenade-throwing senior immortal narrowed his eyes. "I'll get to the bottom of this. But before that, I want to ask Brother Ling." "Wang Ling, ? Do you still have any long johns? Hurry up and give this brother 2 sets. Chapter 156. It was June 2nd on Wednesday in the 6th week of the semester. After last night's commotion, Wang Ling had thought about a lot of things. Song Qingshu had used the premise of providing clues about the maker of the stone ghost mask to forcefully suck up to Wang Ling. Wang Ling didn't dislike this kind of behavior, since he always felt that it would be very troublesome. In fact, he had also refused at the beginning. But his eyelid kept warning him that if he didn't do anything about it, it would lead to even more trouble. So in the end, he had no other choice. Whether he accepted it or not, both sides were troublesome. In the same situation, Wang Ling's only choice was to cut his losses, to prevent the situation from worsening. And then there was this immortal mansion. Wang Ling had very limited knowledge about the forces in the cultivation world, because he didn't care about these trivial matters at all. He had heard a lot about the distribution of forces from grenade-throwing senior Immortal. Currently, the forces in the cultivation world could be roughly divided into two factions, light and dark. The light forces all had business licenses. In addition to accepting disciples and collecting tuition fees, these forces also had independent spirit herb cultivation bases to support their self-sufficiency and profit. Of course, the light forces were under the unified supervision and jurisdiction of Huaxiao's government, and the sects were open and transparent about their power situations. The disciples they accepted were all itinerant cultivators with at least 100 years of cultivation after completing state-mandated quality education. They wouldn't come into conflict with the basic government education department. The other big dark force, to put it in one sentence, was a sect that operated without a license. Huaxiao Nation's attitude toward this type of force had always been to punish them severely. As the owner of the Cultivation Forum and the Cultivation Chat Group, grenade-throwing senior Immortal had connections with all the light forces. He was well aware of the distribution of forces. If there was a force he hadn't heard of, it had to be one of the dark forces. Zhua and you had been hired by the lady of the castle as mercenaries, so for Immortal Mansion, these two people might not be key existences in the interlocking chain of forces. However, these two people had both reached the soul formation stage. Furthermore, they could refine a part of their bodies into magic treasures. It could only be said that as a dark force operating without a license, the power behind Immortal Mansion was indeed intriguing. After dealing with the woman's scattered belongings, Song Qingshu followed grenade-throwing senior Immortal to Wenxian Garden. He would be assisting grenade-throwing senior Immortal in investigating the incident. After Third Saint, he became the second person in Mo Immortal Castle to turn traitor. After the two of them left, Wang Ling looked at the time. It was already almost 3 in the morning, and he still had several exam papers to finish. The most painful thing was that all the exercise questions on this paper were beyond the syllabus. He had to spend 5 or 6 minutes previewing in advance before he could get these two gremlins, pen and eraser, to help him with his homework. As a 16-year-old baby, Wang Ling's heart was really tired. When Wang Ling returned to class early in the morning, for the first time, no one had copied homework this morning. Even Super Chen and Dopey Gua, these two nerdy shut-ins who played games together at night, had handed in their homework on time. Given his understanding of the two of them over this period of time, there had to be something wrong with them suddenly becoming so ambitious. He read their memories, and sure enough, learned a few things. Lotus Sun hadn't come to school today. The reason was that in the middle of the month, the grade 1 students of number 60 high school would collectively participate in military training. When number 59 high school heard that there would be military training, the two headmasters had decided to simply schedule the military training together, and in passing, promote the friendship between the two schools. Thus, Lotus Sun had been temporarily assigned to number 59 high school and integrated into the lives of the two schools ahead of time. In exchange, number 59 high school would also send a student to number 60 high school as an exchange student to experience the cultural differences between the two schools. This was the result of the headmasters of the two schools acting on their own. They hadn't informed anyone in advance, and had only given notice at the teachers' morning meeting yesterday, so most of the students were kept in the dark. But as the class representative, Dopey Gua often went in and out of the teachers' offices, so he was the first to understand the situation. This was also the reason why the two of them hadn't copied homework in the morning. Because they had heard that the exchange student from number 59 high school was also the school belle. If the school belle saw them copying homework, that would be too humiliating. I wonder who number 59 high school will send. Super Chen cupped his chin in his hands as he stared at the classroom door, waiting for the figure of his imagination to appear. Number 59 high school also had a lot of school bells. Although they weren't as magnetic and lethal as Lotus Suns, their looks were passable. After spending so much time with Lotus Sun, the boys in grade 1, class 3 were actually vaguely tired of looking at her. The most important thing was that Lotus Sun was really too far away from them. She was a girl who was impossible to pursue. In contrast, the commoner school belle from No. 59 high school might be more to the boys' taste. It wasn't long before Teacher Pan's footsteps could be heard in the corridor. "She's here, she's here." Dopeygua's pupils contracted slightly. From a distance, he could sense two auras hovering around Teacher Pan. Were there 2 exchange students? Teacher Pan paused at the classroom door and turned around to say to the 2 students who had been sent for the exchange, "Students, don't be nervous. Our students in grade 1, class 3 are very enthusiastic. I hope that you'll gain something from number 60 high school before the military training." After saying that, Teacher Pan walked straight through the door. Following that, 2 students from number 59 high school followed Teacher Pan's footsteps into grade 1, class 3. Super Chen and Dopeygu almost flipped the table when they saw this. They were actually 2 boys. F***K. We used number 60 high school's top school bell in exchange. How did we get these 2 things in return? Speaking of which, these 2 boys could actually be considered old acquaintances of number 60 high school, and even had a history with Wang Ling. Standing on the dais, Teacher Pan cheerfully introduced the 2 students from number 59 high school. "Students, let me introduce you. The one on the left is He Bufeng's classmate. The one on the right is classmate Tang Jingza. Everyone, give him a round of applause." Clap 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 clap. After a symbolic round of applause, Dopeygu couldn't help asking, "Teacher Pan, these 2 students don't seem to be grade 1 students. Is this really okay?" "It's like this. Classmate He Bufeng didn't participate in the school's military training for personal reasons. So this time, he'll be participating in the military training with the grade 1 freshmen. As for classmate Tang Jingza." Teacher Pan pushed up her glasses. "Number 59 high school thinks that we should send classmate Lotus Sunday. Headmaster Jean doesn't think it's good to just send classmate He Bufeng as an exchange student, so he also sent classmate Tang Jingza." Grade 1, class 3 was dead silent, because according to Teacher Pan, this guy was a freebie. Wang Ling. What freaking freebie? Classmate Tang Jingza's grades are very good. If there's anything you don't understand, you can ask him. Teacher Pan cleared her throat and thought about what she was going to say next, and her old face actually flushed a little. In addition, classmate He Bufeng's family runs an andrology hospital, and he also brought a gift when he came to our number 60 high school for the exchange this time. For the next 6 months, all boys can enjoy a 50% discount on circumcision services at the hospital run by classmate He Bufeng's family with their student IDs. What about the girls? Feather Lin raised her hand and asked. Teacher Pan, hair removal. Chapter 157. In the heart of the city, there was a rather majestic building. The office of the lady, the secretary of the Lord of Immortal Castle, was on the top floor, and through the huge floor-to-ceiling windows, one could completely overlook the city. Especially at night, the splendid lights of the city's heart made one feel nostalgic. It was 8:00 in the morning. A woman wearing a hairpin and black traditional clothes stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows, her eyes a little vacant and her brows tightly furrowed. As soon as she arrived at the office, the lady received bad news. Her subordinate Yu's life signal had disappeared. Everyone who worked in Immortal Castle had the Lord's soul brand on them, which could be combined with a special life detector to monitor them. If it suddenly disappeared, it meant one of 2 things: either the soul brand had been washed away, or they were already dead. The Lady of Castle was very clear about Yu's plan. She had also single-handedly planned and arranged for Yu to go out and take revenge on Song Qingshu this time. However, Song Qingshu and Yu's soul brands had unexpectedly disappeared. For the sake of a mere Song Qingshu, she had actually lost 2 of her beloved generals. The Lady of Castle found this a little hard to accept. Furthermore, she couldn't guarantee that Song Qingshu was truly dead. Although the life detector showed that Song Qingshu's soul brand had indeed disappeared, she couldn't rule out the possibility that this guy might have found a way to wash it away. While she was pondering this, the originally transparent floor-to-ceiling windows were shrouded in a layer of haze. Looking at the black shadow reflected in the floor-to-ceiling windows, the lady's eyes twitched, and she bowed a little fearfully. "Greetings, Lord." The black shadow's voice seemed to come from an ethereal void as it echoed heavily. "My venerable self saw that Song Qingshu's soul brand had disappeared. Is he already dead?" The lady lowered her head and replied in a low voice, "This still needs to be investigated. This time, for the sake of a mere pawn, we actually lost 2 generals. You must reflect." "Yes, Lord." The lady cupped her fists at the black shadow. "This subordinate will definitely find out the truth as soon as possible, and will immediately lead people to investigate. If Song Qingshu is really dead, we will definitely be able to find traces of body-dissolving fluid at the coordinates where the life detector disappeared. Actually, my venerable self has always suspected that this person has someone behind him. The deaths of the great sage and second sage, as well as the betrayal of the third sage, are a warning to us. You must be extremely careful this time. At this point, our Immortal castle can no longer tolerate any mistakes. Don't worry, Lord. Even if Song Qingshu has someone backing him, given our Immortal castle's current foundation, no one can shake us. Given Lord strength, as long as you can find that stone ghost mask, it will only be a matter of time before you dominate the world." The castle lord nodded. "Yes, we must investigate the matter regarding the stone ghost mask as soon as possible." At this moment, the shadow of the castle lord on the floor-to-ceiling window suddenly flickered. Then, a cry of, "Ah!" came from the void. Then, without saying a word, the shadow on the floor-to-ceiling window dissipated into nothingness. The lady was stupefied. Could it be that the castle lord was attacked? Castle lord? Castle lord? The bodyguard tried calling out twice. About 10 seconds later, the black shadow reappeared on the floor-to-ceiling window, and the voice of the lord of the castle came from the void again. "I'm fine. There was an accident just now. My long-range projector ran out of power. That new guy forgot to charge it for me last night, and he even spilled his coffee on my pants. Luckily, my pants are waterproof." The lady, given the relationship between number 59 High School's headmaster Jean and number 60 High School's headmaster Chen, number 59 High School and number 60 High School were actually quite close. It was just that in recent years, the students had been competing with each other more seriously. But after the last Spirit Sword exchange meet, the relationship between the 2 schools had improved a lot. Meeting He Bufeng and Tang Jingza for the second time gave Wang Ling a very mystical feeling. Back then, at number 59 High School, one of them was a delinquent senior whose name made people tremble with fear, and the other was the president of the student union who liked to find fault with others and compare himself with others. But both of them had ended up the same way. After the 4-day Spirit Sword exchange meet, both of them had lost their temper. Thus, they had embarked on the path of studying hard and making progress every day, adhering to the core values of cultivation. The first 2 classes this morning were still Teacher Pan's Tao Talisman's class. The teaching progress of the 2 schools was actually about the same. He Bufeng had no pressure at all to learn, and there was no need to mention Tang Jingza, who was an old senior who was about to graduate. He knew the high school curriculum like the back of his hand. After studying for the past few weeks, I believe that everyone already has a corresponding understanding of the 4 major spirit talismans. Among the functional spirit talismans, the spirit guiding talisman, this is the focus of our midterm exam. Today, I'm going to talk to you about the application of expanded functions of spirit talismans. At this point, everyone basically understood that Teacher Pan was going to start her daily lessons that went beyond the syllabus again. The spirit talisman I'm going to talk to you about today is the meditation talisman. Hearing this, Wang Ling couldn't help raising his eyebrows. This was a spirit talisman with an extremely high degree of difficulty. Through meditation, one could project it into the void and see some revelations about the future. But because it was very difficult, the success rate was extremely low. After mixing cinnabar with spirit water, Teacher Pan unfolded the yellow talisman and began a preliminary demonstration. She focused her spirit energy on the writing brush and frowned as she carefully wrote on the yellow talisman to ensure that there were no mistakes in the seal. The slightest mistake could directly cause the creation of the meditation talisman to fail. After about 3 minutes, Teacher Pan put away the brush and injected spirit energy into the yellow talisman. Everyone, look carefully. A moment later, the yellow talisman fluttered in the air. It was a dress that looked a little gorgeous. It was a little out of place with Teacher Pan's serious and old-fashioned style. Teacher Pan pushed up her glasses. This is a Dharma dress that I bought on a certain Taobao a few days ago. Although Teacher Pan's demonstration had been successful, even Teacher Pan herself wasn't clear on what this brightly colored dress symbolized, and what kind of story would happen around it in the future. The meditation talisman could reveal key objects in the future, but as for what these key objects represented, one would have to use one's imagination to guess. Teacher Pan then gave everyone a set of talisman-making tools. Now, students, try out the steps just now. The classroom exploded once again. The seal on the meditation talisman was intricate and complicated, and it was a huge test of wrist strength to write it. The slightest difference in thickness could lead to failure. Even Tang Jingze, an old senior from number 59 high school, had to use up several yellow talismans, and he couldn't help frowning. This was too difficult. But just as he was trying it out by accident, the yellow talisman on Dopigua's desk suddenly buzzed and burst forth with light. Master of Dopi stared at the floating yellow talisman in disbelief. Did it work? Everyone's gazes followed the direction of the sky, and a moment later, a shadow was projected. What's that? Feather Lin looked curiously at the thing that had been projected from the sky. It looked very much like a fungus, with mushroom heads on both sides. On the top was something shaped like a mouth, and below it was a small hole which looked very smooth. When the boys around them saw this thing, they were directly stupefied. Master of Dopi coughed. Do you know the Taisui fungus? This thing is our family's ancestral meat lingji mushroom. Chapter 158. The difficulty of creating a meditation talisman was very high. Apart from Master of Dopi who had managed to draw it by accident, everyone else's attempts ended in failure. Of course, Wang Ling was just pretending. He had deliberately made a mistake at the last step of writing the seal. Most people had failed, so it was even more impossible for him to stand out at a time like this, since it would really draw too much attention. In fact, the seal Wang Ling had drawn on the yellow paper was much more accurate than Teacher Pan's. But for Wang Ling, it was just for fun. The meditation talisman wasn't very useful for him. It could also serve as an early warning of disaster, but his eyelids were more intuitive. Overall, apart from Master of Dopi's wretched interlude, this Tao talisman's lesson could be considered quite harmonious. Dopigua had managed to complete the meditation talisman by accident. Even he himself didn't know why such a large, meat lingji mushroom had appeared in the air. The scene turned awkward for a moment. Dopigua could only smile apologetically in an attempt to relieve the pressure in the atmosphere. But Teacher Pan was in the end Teacher Pan. As number 60 high school's top teacher and a teaching pioneer that the students were proud of, she had recognized the meat lingji mushroom at one glance. Teacher Pan frowned as she suddenly recalled that student Dopigua was often absent-minded in class, his eyes glazed over and his thoughts distracted. Sometimes, when she patrolled the back window of the classroom, she would even see the student Dopi sleeping on the table. This was clearly the syndrome of using too much meat lingji mushroom. Now, even the meditation talisman had reflected this thing, which was enough to prove the lethality of this meat lingji mushroom for youngsters. How could the flowers of the motherland indulge in such a strange place? Thus, there was no point in smiling apologetically or chatting awkwardly. Teacher Pan directly called Dopigua's parents over to discuss the meat lingji mushroom. This was really quite embarrassing. After class, Dopigua, who had returned from Teacher Pan's office, slumped over the table with a lifeless expression on his face. At the same time, he wailed in his heart, "My illustrious reputation." It was actually ruined just like that. Super Chin couldn't help patting Dopigua's shoulder. "Brother Gua, we're all men, we all know this. Actually, it doesn't matter." Our class is very united, we definitely won't tell the other classes about this. At least it's a good ending. Little Peanut also comforted him. Master of Dopey's tears welled up in the corners of his eyes and he simply wanted to cry. What's so good about that? My parents were called. Little Peanut, when I was delivering homework to the teacher just now, I heard the teachers in the office talking about your dad, Master of Dopey. My dad? Little Peanut, they're discussing whether your dad is a botanist. Master of Dopey, in the blink of an eye, it was noon. The atmosphere in the class seemed to be slightly heavy, causing He Buffang and Tang Jingza to feel very embarrassed. They didn't understand what exactly was going on. After asking around carefully, she found out that Mother Wan was coming to deliver food today. Every time they thought of Mother Wan's love bento filled with a strong dark wind, everyone couldn't help trembling. Doesn't Mother Wan usually only make bento on Fridays? How come today? Super Chin asked. Mother Wan heard that there will be 2 students from number 59 high school today, so she decided to make bento in advance. They'll be delivered to class later. Little Peanut replied weakly. He Buffang and Tang Jingza were touched when they heard this. They had long heard about number 60 high's hospitality, and sure enough, this kitchen lady was too considerate. Not only did she specially make bento, she would also specially deliver it to the classroom. In contrast, their number 59 high school's attitude toward number 60 high school back then was simply too much. He Buffang and Tang Jingza felt deeply ashamed in their hearts. Wang Ling, these 2 people clearly still didn't realize the seriousness of the problem. At number 60 high school, even Wang Ling couldn't deny that Mother Wan was an extraordinary woman in the world of cooking. He always felt that her identity wasn't simple, and that she had students all over the world. Wang Ling had already seen the shadow of Mother Wan's cuisine in too many places, the most famous of which was the heavenly silkworm potato strips. This was also the impression that most people had of Mother Wan's current signature dish, since she had waved goodbye to the era of big pot dishes and turned to researching new cuisines. This heavenly silkworm potato strips was probably her dish with the highest score to date. Wang Ling had also seen a campus celebrity interview with Mother Wan in the school magazine last time. At the end of the interview, Mother Wan had generously shared her experience in making the heavenly silkworm potato strips. That was, don't ever lose the potatoes while stir-frying them. If the potatoes went into another wok while stir-frying them, they would change flavor. It was close to 12 o'clock when there was the sound of a cart being pushed at the originally quiet entrance to Grade 1, Class 3. The wheels of the cart rolled over the ground with a rumbling sound. It was Mother Wan pushing the cart over. Mother Wan pushed open the classroom door. She was still wearing a pale yellow apron and a snow-white chef's uniform, and her slightly plump figure was unadorned. When she smiled, there were faint crow's feet at the corners of her eyes. Everyone must have been waiting. It's time to eat. After saying this, light flowed out of her hands, and the delicately wrapped lunchboxes on the cart were immediately distributed into the hands of every student. Mother Wan put her hands on her hips in a domineering manner. In order to welcome 2 students from number 59 high school today, our love lunchboxes were specially made. Even the menu has been changed. Mother Wan knew that the relationship between the students of number 60 high school and number 59 high school was actually very tense, so it could be said that she had racked her brains for the love lunchboxes today. In the end, she finally had an idea. Except for Tang Jingza and He Buffang, everyone else in Grade 1, Class 3 sucked in a breath of cold air. Damn. Even the fixed dish in the love lunchboxes, the heavenly silkworm potato strips, had been changed. This time, it was really GG. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air, and then opened the lunchboxes. The first thing they saw was stir-fried green peppers with mushrooms, which were still giving off steam. However, the mushrooms were a little strange, and looked a little like horses. After taking a bite, Super Chin already couldn't stand the earthy taste in his mouth, and he couldn't help picking it up and asking, Mother Wan, what is this? Mother Wan quickly replied, this is a kind of fungus, it's very nutritious. Its scientific name is horse antler. Do you see the 2 halves of the skin on the side? Super Chin nodded. Mother Wan explained slowly, this skin is called a pine stinger, and it's a jellyfish that lives on sea pine. When I went to the frozen sea before, I directly jumped into the water to catch it, so it's still fresh. If you eat the pine stinger and horse antler together, you'll have the power to forgive. I hope that after eating these two dishes, you'll be able to live more harmonious and happy lives. Little Peanut, then this soup, Mother Wan, this is white lily soup, or white lily soup for short. Chapter 159. It was June 2nd on Thursday in the 6th week of the semester. That morning, Loopy Toad took out its little notebook from under the bed in Wang Ling's room. It continued to write down its human observation plan. It had already been several months since it had completely accepted the reality of its dog body. Loopy Toad now had a pretty good grasp of human language. Even when it used its dog paws to write, its handwriting was very neat. Loopy Toad felt that as long as it died again, given its current handwriting, it would definitely win its reputation in life and in death. As a cultured dog, Loopy Toad felt that its current level of literacy was already close to that of a human university student. It could be called a top student among dogs. Since learning to write an observation diary, Loopy Toad had also recorded a lot of things, big and small. In addition to observations on humans themselves, this diary also contained observations on certain events. From the vicious incident of Mother Wang being groped, Loopy Toad had discovered the formidable power of the human internet. The rapidly developing internet era enabled humans to quickly take sides online, and then use the Water Army Commander-in-Chief to summon 100,000 water armies to attack or defend a certain opinion. Thus, Loopy Toad felt that there was a reason why the demon race had failed to break into the human world through the gate between worlds all those years ago. Human information technology was really too advanced. It was like this online, and it was also like this in reality. Especially when it came to resisting the invasion of the gate between worlds, there wasn't a single phone call that couldn't be handled. Send a shared coordinate, and a capable cultivator nearby would immediately hear the news and rush over. In contrast, the demon race was still using the most primitive method of sensing to gather their strength, and had already lost at the starting line. All in all, the demon race still had a lot to learn. Loopy Toad now also knew how to operate a phone and an intelligent wristwatch, which was really too convenient. In contrast, the demon world was actually still using spirit talismans to send messages, which was really too lowly. After writing in the diary, Loopy Toad closed the notebook and put it back under the bed. It then opened the window on the second floor and jumped down to the villa. Today's weather forecast for Shanghai City had changed again. It wasn't as hot and stuffy as the TV had said. On the contrary, when the gentle breeze and the sun shone on Loopy Toad's green dog fur, Loopy Toad even felt refreshed. But without Wang Ling by its side, Loopy Toad felt like something was missing in its heart. It stared blankly at the end of East Huang Road, looking a little lonely. Although Little Master Ling usually didn't like to talk, Loopy Toad had a basic understanding of Little Master Ling's character after spending so much time together. The key was to be honest with Little Master Ling. Wang Ling didn't like to stir up trouble, and he didn't like it when people kowtowed to him. If Little Master Ling was compared to a cat, it was best to go along with its fur. If you went against its fur and tried to cause trouble, it would most likely explode in anger. When it had first arrived at the Wang family, Loopy Toad had always been a little scared, but now that it had known them for a long time, it gradually relaxed. Sometimes, he would even help it stroke its fur in his spare time. Although Loopy Toad had turned into a dog, its cultivation hadn't been delayed. It was trying to think of a way to use this body to return to its prime. And Wang Ling's help to stroke its fur was actually very helpful. A big shot at the level of an immortal king personally stroking its fur. What kind of treatment was this? Furthermore, Wang Ling's stroking had the effect of dredging the meridians and stimulating the acupuncture points. After being stroked a few times, Loopy Toad felt that its waist wasn't sore and its legs didn't hurt anymore, and it even had more energy to cultivate. Standing in the courtyard outside the villa, Loopy Toad used the Demon King Heart Sutra that it was familiar with, which Wang Ling had already modified. To use the Demon King Heart Sutra, the source of demon chi was needed. But in the human world, the source of demon chi didn't exist, so Wang Ling had helped Loopy Toad replace the source of demon qi in the Demon King Heart Sutra with the source of spirit qi. When Loopy Toad used the technique at that moment, it could feel spirit qi flowing into its celestial aperture and overflowing. It felt like the Tao of nature. Loopy Toad had never experienced this wonderful feeling before. Loopy Toad's body was now much stronger than before. It was already comparable to a nascent soul cultivator, and an average golden core cultivator wouldn't be able to do anything to it. It was a demon king, an outstanding figure in the demon race. Back then, a demon king had been able to fight 5 soul formation cultivators. Standing under the sun, Loopy Toad opened its pitch-black eyes, which glowed with an azure blue light. It could feel its demon king's soul gradually being restored. At the same time, its keen sense of smell picked up on the scent of a stranger. Keeping its gaze fixed in one direction, it sensed signs of a stranger in the vicinity of the Wang family's small villa. The Wang family's small villa was on the east side of East Huang Road, and to the west was an undeveloped commercial area. It was said that according to the original plan, a large imported shopping mall would be opened here. But it was a pity that the boss ran away with his sister-in-law before the matter was even halfway done. As for the building materials that had been shipped here, such as reinforced concrete, bricks, glass and some wood, no one had taken care of them. You had died under an old locust tree in this commercial development area. At that moment, 2 men in suits with sophisticated equipment on their backs appeared in the originally empty building materials area. They were looking for traces of body-dissolving fluid. Generally speaking, high-quality body-dissolving fluid wouldn't leave any traces, but Immortal Castle's body-dissolving fluid had been made by Immortal Castle itself. A special substance had been incorporated into it, and Immortal Castle could detect it through a special gas-collecting device. The 2 men were holding a cylindrical object with a very long tube at the end that was connected to a backpack. Very quickly, when they reached an old locust tree, the device beeped in warning. One of them quickly turned on his wristwatch to report the situation to the lady of the castle. "Leader, we've found Ayu's location based on the coordinates where the soul brand disappeared, and we've detected traces of body-dissolving fluid." On the other end of the line, the lady of the castle asked in a deep voice, "What about Song Qingshu's location? Have you found it?" Based on their current location, the 2 men quickly located the location where Song Qingshu's soul brand had disappeared. Finally, they looked at the building in the east. "We've found the lady of the castle. It's a villa. Song Qingshu's soul imprint disappeared in this villa." "A villa?" The lady was astonished. There were actually people who had settled down in this desolate countryside? Her expression darkened. "How about this, sneak into the villa and investigate?" The 2 men in suits hesitated for a moment before saying, "But the lady of the castle, there's a dog at the entrance of the villa." "Wouldn't that be too obvious?" "It's just a dog, let's stew it for dog meat. We'll let you have a sumptuous feast. Isn't that great?" Chapter 160. The area around East Huang Road was a low-end area that hadn't been developed yet. Apart from the transport vehicles transporting supplies into the city, there were very few other vehicles that passed through here. It could really be described as a wilderness. So when the 2 men in suits saw a villa here, not only were they a little surprised, they also felt a little strange. Ever since the real estate bubble, housing prices had long since fallen off. Even a white-collar worker could buy a large house of several hundred square meters in the city with his salary. If he felt that there wasn't enough space, he could also entrust a construction team to use the space expansion spell to increase the space. After all, this technique was now quite mature. So, what kind of family was this? The 2 men in suits felt a little strange in their hearts, but the lady had already spoken, so they could only obey her arrangements. They stuck invisibility talismans on, and their bodies instantly glowed with a mirage of colored glass before they turned completely transparent. This type of invisibility talisman could hide one's aura. In fact, it was also a prohibited type of talisman, and generally only certain government departments in Huaxiao Nation allowed its limited production and use. The talismans in the hands of the 2 men in suits had been privately made by Immortal Castle. In fact, this was already illegal, and if they were caught, they would be directly detained. But when the two men tiptoed closer to the villa's entrance, they inexplicably breathed sighs of relief. Because after probing with their spiritual senses, they hadn't sensed the source of spirit energy in the villa. Is this an ordinary family? The two men were a little puzzled. However, since it was an ordinary family, the following matters would be much easier to handle. The window on the second floor is open. Let's go up and take a look first. The two men thought it over, and directly jumped through the window. It was Wang Ling's bedroom, which was quite spacious. They entered the study one after another and started to look around. As they pondered this, they reached the door. Then, a furry green tail suddenly dropped down from the ceiling. This tail was too thick and strong. The two of them were startled. They hurriedly took a big step back and raised their heads. This time, they saw a slightly larger green Akita. It was hanging upside down on the ceiling, staring at them with a hostile gaze. This was the dog they had seen at the villa's entrance before. The two of them recognized it at a glance. They had felt that there was something wrong with the dog, but they didn't expect that there was really something wrong with it. Also, wasn't this dog way too big? One look and you could tell that it wasn't a decent dog. In fact, what shocked the two men the most was the dog's insight. They were still wearing the invisibility talisman, but it could still discover them. This was enough to prove that the dog's strength was not weaker than theirs. In fact, it was far stronger than theirs. What should we do? This dog doesn't look weak. Should we retreat first? You're already here. It would be a pity to leave just like that. Both of us are at the peak of the late-stage gold core realm. Why should we be afraid of a dog? Late-stage gold core? Loopy Toad jumped down from the ceiling and sneered. Back at number 60 high, it hadn't been afraid of a golden core cultivator even when it was so weak. Now, he was even less afraid. Since their identities had already been exposed, the two Immortal Castle cultivators felt that there was no need for them to hide anymore. Spirit light flashed in their hands, and each of them summoned an immortal sword to attack. One of the men in a suit pointed his sword directly at Loopy Toad. We originally just wanted to investigate something and didn't mean to offend you, but you bastard insisted on stopping us. Don't blame us for being impolite. The two men swiftly circulated their spirit energy and moved in unison, even brandishing their sword chi in unison. It was very obvious that the people who worked in Immortal Castle had been trained and nurtured in an assembly line fashion. The advantage of this was that they could train a lot of people who were proficient in sword techniques in a short period of time, but the disadvantage was that they were too monotonous. Anyone who had studied sword techniques a little would be able to see through them in just a few rounds. Thus, whenever the people from Immortal Castle attacked during a mission, they would do so with murderous intent, and they wanted to end the fight in the shortest possible time. This was to avoid drawing out the fight and creating openings. But looking at the two men's movements, Loopy Toad really felt that they were a little slow, and felt a little sleepy. Thinking back to when it had been in the demon world back then, when it had been talking and laughing with the sword demon King Hua Laisher, these two guys probably hadn't even been born yet, right? Then, two dazzling flaming sword lights interrupted Loopy Toad's thoughts. Its eyes met the two sword lights, and just as they were about to reach it, they stopped as if they had come to a stop, and were unable to move forward even half a step. Or a freezing spell. The two Immortal Castle cultivators were alarmed. In a situation where there was a complete disparity in realms, there was a way to rely on aura alone to fight, and that was the famous demon race spell, or a freezing spell. By releasing a special aura to counteract the spirit waves or sharpness produced by a magic weapon, this was a fairly advanced spell. The reason why the demon kings who had descended from the gate between worlds back then had been such a headache was because of this aura freezing spell. For demon kings of the demon race, the aura freezing spell was in fact more like a barrier spell. It could evade the lethality of a cultivator's magic weapon at the first instance. So 6 years ago, Loopy Toad had felt pretty miserable, because its aura freezing spell had been completely useless against Wang Ling. At that time, Little Master Ling had pierced itself with one punch. now that it had recovered part of its strength, it could finally use this spell again. Loopy Toad couldn't help sighing in its heart. Thinking about it carefully, it also felt like a lifetime had passed. The expressions of the two Immortal Castle cultivators finally changed as they were completely frightened. They realized that they absolutely couldn't touch this dog. It actually knew the demon race's spell. What on earth was this dog's identity? Retreat. They turned to leave, but found that their bodies wouldn't listen to them, and they couldn't move at all. The aura freezing spell just now had actually followed the sword lights that had slashed at them in the opposite direction. They were completely immobilized. "You shouldn't have come here," Loopy Toad said as it swept its gaze over the two people lazily. It withdrew its spirit energy and its body shrank, the blue light in its eyes disappearing. Loopy Toad didn't know if it was because it had been with Little Master Ling for too long, but it didn't feel as murderous as before. It had clearly swallowed the soul of a shadow stream killer back at number 60 high school. But now, faced with two cultivators with delicious souls at peak late golden core stage, it actually wasn't the least bit interested. "What are you going to do with them?" At that moment, a voice came from behind the man in a suit. The two Immortal Castle cultivators turned pale with fright. They had never expected there to be someone else in the room. Two huge shadows covered them, and they were none other than the two muscular brothers whom Wang Ling had enlightened, the Monster Pen and Goblin Eraser. Chapter 161. Loopy Toad didn't have any intention of killing these two people, but Little Master Ling would definitely be unhappy if he found out that they had broken into the Wang family's villa without permission and were plotting something. Loopy Toad wasn't interested in their souls, but it also didn't want them to leave alive, so it was best to leave them to these two gremlins, Pen and Eraser. These two people couldn't move at all, and had no idea what the two muscular brothers behind them were going to do to them. They were scared to the point of peeing their pants, but unfortunately, the aura freezing spell was so powerful that even their cavernous bodies were frozen. Both of them couldn't stop trembling. "Pen, should we get rid of them?" "Eraser, forget it, Little Master won't be happy if their blood splashes all over the room." Alright, there was only one way left. The two muscular brothers looked at the toilet in Wang Ling's bedroom at the same time, and then escorted the two people to the toilet. "Pen, you're lucky. Our Little Master likes cleanliness, so we won't let you see blood today." The two Immortal Castle cultivators turned pale with fright. "What do you want to do?" "Hee, what?" Rubbing his fists, Goblin Eraser opened the toilet lid, then grabbed one of them by the foot and directly flipped him upside down before stuffing him into the toilet. Finally, he quickly pressed the flush button, and with the sound of rushing water, this person was directly sucked in and directly disappeared. Wang Ling had enlightened this toilet, and it led to an alternate space. No one knew exactly where it led to. But in theory, once they were flushed down the toilet, these two people would essentially disappear from the world. The other Immortal Castle cultivator was so frightened that his face was covered in sweat. "You," Goblin Eraser put one foot on the toilet seat and pointed at it condescendingly. "Are you going to go in yourself, or do you want me to throw you in?" The Immortal Castle cultivators. There were actually a lot of things to do on Thursday. When Wang Ling came to class in the morning, Little Peanut was handing out school notices with a bitter expression on his face. "What's this?" Dopey Gua stared at the grayish-yellow school paper. This was a notice before the military training in the middle of the month. Some of the items and things to take note of during the military training were marked on it. Everyone's gaze swept through the notice line by line. Soon, all the boys in the class burst out screaming in pain. F***CK. Do we have to shave during military training? Superchin didn't want to do it. It hadn't been easy for him to get a short fringe. It would be such a pity to cut it off. Also, why can girls get special treatment? Superchin felt that this was serious gender discrimination. Amidst the resentment, Master of Dopey said indifferently, "Calm down for a while, and don't talk about gender discrimination. Let me ask you, which is more important, the bangs or the teapot?" The boys thought about it for a while and didn't say anything. Seeing that everyone had quietened down, Dopey Gua nodded in satisfaction. "That's right. Actually, a buzz cut is pretty good. It's summer in Shanghai City, and the weather is hot. It'll be cooler after I shave my head. Back in the day, I also had bangs. But after thinking about it carefully, I realized that it didn't matter whether I had bangs or not. After all, I relied on my talent to survive in the world. Hearing this, for some reason, the boys in the class suddenly thought of a saying, "He used to be a king." Later, he said, "Forget it." Wang Ling felt that Dopigua's skin was already hopelessly thick. A haircut wasn't a stranger to Wang Ling, and coincidentally, he had also had bangs before. Furthermore, he could use the spirit energy in his body to stimulate his scalp to rapidly grow hair. This technique focused on stable control of spirit energy and precise positioning after using inner vision. Most golden core cultivators could actually do it. It was just that after Wang Ling used this technique, his hair grew much faster than an ordinary person's. There had been a time when Wang Ling had been obsessed with creating all kinds of hairstyles, but he had later figured it out. Actually, hairstyle wasn't the main point, it was his good looks, so Wang Ling had simply kept a buzz cut until now. Looking at the notice, Wang Ling touched his hair. It seemed a little long. After school, Wang Ling went alone to a small, affordable hairdresser's. This shop was relatively small, but the environment and facilities weren't bad. Furthermore, it specialized in cutting hair for students. Of course, there were plenty of other medium-sized and even large hairdressers next to this affordable hairdresser's, but Wang Ling felt that getting a haircut there was really too expensive. He couldn't afford it with his monthly allowance at all. It was just a buzz cut, wouldn't it be the same everywhere? With this thought in mind, Wang Ling walked into this Alice hairdresser's. As soon as he entered, Wang Ling heard the sound of a hairdryer. The boss was a middle-aged man with slick back hair. He had a bit of a bald spot on his head, a little flab on his slightly chubby face, and wore a pair of wire glasses. When he saw Wang Ling come in, he immediately put on a big smile. "Handsome, are you looking for a personal hairdresser?" Wang Ling was silent, then shook his head. The boss's eyes lit up, and he immediately felt that his chance had come. "Handsome, we have a 30 yuan super hairdresser, a 60 yuan chief hairdresser, and a 150 yuan chief hairdresser. As long as you top up 500 yuan in our shop and get a card, you can enjoy a 10% discount from the chief hairdresser. It only costs 15 yuan. Wang Ling shook his head again. He looked around, and his eyes finally fell on a young man. The young man was helping a hairdresser with a yellow airplane haircut, and the two of them were standing around an auntie to give her a perm. "Who is this?" Wang Ling's voice rang out in the boss's head. The boss was startled. But very quickly, the boss regained his composure. His shop was rarely visited by cultivators, and was still more frequented by ordinary people. Even foundation establishment high school students would go to the large and medium-sized hairdressers next door. Thus, Wang Ling's appearance surprised the boss a little. It was said that cultivators were rich. They didn't care about money in the secular world at all, and were the kind that spent money like it was dirt. They even topped up their phone cards for several million yuan. Had he just picked up a fat sheep? The boss was overjoyed and quickly explained, "This little brother is a new apprentice in our shop, but no customers have dared to cut his hair, so now we can only let him cut a wig for practice. If Handsome is willing to get a card, I'll have this apprentice's Shifu, Master Kevin, cut your hair. This is the top hairdresser in our shop. Does it cost money?" Wang Ling raised his eyebrows and asked telepathically. "Handsome only needs a card, and Master Kevin only costs 15 yuan for a haircut." Wang Ling shook his head, looked at the young man, and said telepathically again, "I'm talking about him." The boss was blank for a moment, and somehow felt that the situation wasn't good. He's an apprentice. There's no charge." Wang Ling nodded, then pointed at the young man. "That's him." Chapter 162. Actually, Wang Ling felt that he really wasn't a stingy person. Money should be spent where it should be spent, and not a penny where it shouldn't be spent. This was the economic view of consumption that Wang Ling had developed since he was a child under the guidance of father and mother Wang. A haircut was just a trivial matter, and Wang Ling was more willing to spend the money on crispy noodle snacks. He had recently heard that Little Raccoon had released a new flavor, which was indigo wood mustard. Wang Ling planned to buy a packet to try it out. If he could save the money for this haircut, he could buy a few more packets. After a moment of silence in the barber shop, the apprentice brother whom Wang Ling had called out had an incredulous expression on his face. He turned to Wang Ling and bowed solemnly. "Thank you for your trust in me. I will definitely do my best." Wang Ling nodded indifferently, then found a place to sit down. Everyone around him also looked at Wang Ling strangely, because apprentice hairdressers were actually very frightening existences. They were no less frightening than a new intern nurse in a hospital. The only difference was that one would stick needles into your skin, while the other would dig into your scalp. Wang Ling was probably the only one who had the guts to do this. This was probably the apprentice brother's first time cutting a customer's hair. Holding the electric razor in his hand, a few drops of cold sweat trickled down the corners of his eyebrows. He looked a little nervous, like an inexperienced little sister who was about to offer her first time. I'm going to start. It was just a buzz cut, he just needed to clean the sides and the back, it wasn't that hard. The apprentice brother comforted himself, but the moment the electric razor touched Wang Ling's scalp, his hand trembled. In a flash, the back of Wang Ling's head was shaved bald. "Little brother, the boss." Wang Ling rubbed his bald scalp and shook his head. Then, the hair there actually grew at a speed visible to the naked eye, and very quickly, he turned from a Wuku into a Scion. The boss and his companions were stupefied. What the hell? There was this kind of operation? After about an hour, Wang Ling walked out of the barber shop without a hitch. The boss grabbed Wang Ling. "Jinren, don't go." Then, Wang Ling saw the boss take out 200 yuan from his trouser pocket and stuff it into Wang Ling's hand. "Wang Ling?" The boss pointed behind him at the hair strewn all over the floor, and looked at Wang Ling gratefully. "Thank you, spiritual master, for providing my shop with hair. The quality of immortal hair is really too good, it can be made into a high-class wig. This 200 yuan is the market price for hair. I hope that Taoist master will come often in the future." Wang Ling combed his hair and went home, his pockets full of half-price crispy noodle snacks. This time, he had shaved his head and picked up 200 yuan for free, replenishing his stock of crispy noodle snacks. When he got home, he found that there were a lot of people in the house today. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal and Song Qingshu were waiting in the living room, and the old man very politely served them a bowl of mung bean soup. In the summer, old people had the habit of boiling mung bean soup to relieve internal heat. When old man Wang was young, his mung bean soup was a star dish in restaurants. There was a limited supply every day, and even a bowl was hard to come by. However, it was a pity that these two fools did not know how to cherish or be grateful. Staring blankly at this bowl of mung bean soup, they started to ponder the meaning of the mung beans in it. In just a short while, they could even clearly count how many mung beans there were in the bowl. Song Qingshu actually didn't have this problem at first, but after following grenade-throwing Senior Immortal for a few days, he had been led astray. "Brother Ling." Seeing Wang Ling appear, grenade-throwing cupped his fists politely. Next to him, Song Qingshu also stood up and saluted, calling him Ling Jinren. The old man didn't care about Wang Ling, he still had to catch up on his TV series. Seeing that Wang Ling had arrived, he hurriedly waved his hand and said to the two of them, "Well, there's more in the pot of mung bean soup. If it's not enough, I'll go get more. You guys talk first." "Okay, thank you, great senior." Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal said sternly and nodded. At the same time, he was deep in thought. "I definitely have to take the mung bean soup home later and carefully study its mysteries. Maybe after drinking this soup, I'll have hope of reaching the void refinement stage." Wang Ling, returning to the topic at hand, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal sat on the sofa and looked at Wang Ling as he said, "Brother Ling, I came to look for you this time because I have good news. Thanks to Little Song this time, we found the whereabouts of the maker of the stone ghost mask." Song Qingshu echoed him. "I only provided a little clue, but thanks to Senior Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal and that Senior Black, they were able to pinpoint the location based on the clue. Hearing this, Wang Ling nodded. In the end, Song Qingshu still fulfilled his promise and didn't go back on his word. If they could find the maker of the stone ghost mask, it meant that the matter of the stone ghost mask would come to an end very soon. As for Immortal Castle, which had been trying to use the mask to secretly rise to power, their plot would also be completely ruined. Of course, this was the ideal situation. In fact, Wang Ling was also very curious about the identity of the maker of the mask. According to the location Little Black gave me, the maker isn't far from here. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal opened the location message that Little Black had sent him, which clearly indicated the distance between the 2 points, which was 800 kilometers. An ordinary cultivator would be able to reach this distance in 20 minutes on a flying sword. Wang Ling cupped his chin as he looked at the coordinates that Little Black had sent him, and slowly frowned. The more he looked, the more he felt that this place was a little familiar. Brother Ling, don't worry, Little Black found this place after repeated calculations and verification. Combined with my great magic power, there's absolutely no mistake. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal vowed solemnly. But Wang Ling had a bad feeling about this, and his eyelids started to twitch again. It was a one-star disaster alert. Who knew what on earth would happen? Wang Ling had Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal and Song Qingshu put their hands on his shoulders, and then with a swish, the three of them simultaneously teleported in the direction of the coordinates. Right after that, a somewhat old-school restaurant that looked like it was on the verge of collapsing appeared in front of them. Looking at the huge words, Midnight Dining Hall, on a horizontal board hanging from the entrance, Wang Ling was lost in deep thought. Damn. Why was it this place? Could it be that this restaurant owner used to be a smith? From a smith to a chef. Wang Ling felt that this was even more ridiculous than being a crossover singer. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal looked at the twitching expression on Wang Ling's long-lost poker face, and couldn't help feeling a little curious. Brother Ling, it seems that you've been here before? The melodious singing in the restaurant rang out one after another. This is the person I deeply love and think about day and night. You're tuning in to the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.